Chapter 301. Of course, he said this because his female partner was Gu Xingyin, but it was the truth. There had never been a dance partner who could give him such a feeling. He had never felt that kind of harmony and passion from anyone else. Gu Xingyin was also quite satisfied with the previous effect. They were indeed soul mates who had accompanied each other for several worlds. The tacit understanding between the two was simply engraved in the depths of their souls. After the dance, she knew that it would be easy for them to steal the limelight at the literary performance with this dance. Her dancing skills were definitely at the professional level, and Lu Zhongting could keep up with her, which meant that his foundation was also very good. To put it bluntly, Qi Shishir's dancing was actually at this level, but she had been praised too much. This time, I've troubled Senior. I'll treat you to dinner tonight as a thank you gift, Gu Xingyin said. In fact, if Lu Zhongting was not her lover, she would be embarrassed. After all, he was the Prince Charming of the first university. She had never heard of him performing in public before. To a certain extent, Gu Xingyin could be considered to have taken his first time. Lu Zhongting did not stand on ceremony with her. After that, Lu Zhongting mentioned that there were still nearly 2 months before the literary performance. Although the two of them had a tacit understanding, dancing did indeed require frequent practice. In the end, the two of them decided to come here twice a week to practice. A long time later, every time Liang Zimu thought of this matter, she would say to the two of them who had already become husband and wife, "The two of you owe me a big red packet. If I hadn't provided the venue, how could the two of you hook up so quickly?" Qi Shishir had not come to look for her during this period. She was probably waiting for the literary performance to slap her in the face. However, Gu Xingyin was no longer prepared to sit and wait for her to come to her like before. She had always been passive and resisting, but this time, she wanted to experience the joy of taking the initiative to attack. Qi Shishir's advantages, connections, personality, family background, and appearance. Gu Xingyin expressed that Xing Lu could completely throw Qi Shishir off for the latter 2 points. As for the first 2 points, she could take it slow, right? One day, Gu Xingyin was studying in class. She suddenly invited the whole class, including the counselor, to her birthday party. Her words shocked everyone. One had to know that Xing Lu didn't even have a close friend in class, let alone invite others to the banquet. Before they could react, Gu Xingyin continued, "I know that my personality isn't very good. Actually, I also want to make friends. When I see you guys talking and laughing together, I also want to be with you guys. But I don't know what to do. Can you guys give me a chance to be with you guys?" In the face of Gu Xingyin, no one dared to say no. When the parents of the Xing family heard that she was going to invite her classmates to her birthday party, they were pleasantly surprised. Especially Xing Lu's parents. They had always been worried sick about their daughter's loneliness. This time, when they heard that she was willing to start dating her classmates, they were especially enthusiastic about this banquet. Therefore, Gu Xingyin's classmates were lucky enough to see what a real rich family was like. The wealth of the Xing family was not only reflected in material things. The most amazing thing was the guests at Gu Xingyin's birthday party. Although she was just a junior, Grandpa Xing's love for this granddaughter was well known in the circle. Therefore, when the students saw some of the faces that often appeared on the news, they were stunned. Chapter 302. All in all, after this birthday party, Xing Lu's reputation in the first university was once again fiercely spread. In the past, everyone had only heard various rumors that her family background was good, but most people did not have much of an idea. However, this time, everyone knew that she was indeed a real Missy with an extremely illustrious background. Compared to her, those rich second-generation heirs who usually flaunted their wealth in a high-profile manner were really nothing. Gu Xingyin began to have all kinds of people around her. She was no longer as cold and distant as before. Although her temperament was still cold, she had begun to slowly learn to participate in some group activities and get along with everyone. She also had people who would reserve seats for her during class, people who would call her when she was eating, and people who would take the initiative to help her apply for leave when she had something to do. Sheng Lu's frequency in everyone's conversations was increasing, and the evaluation was getting better and better. Everything was developing according to Gu Xingyin's expectations. Qi Shishir only felt that everything had changed. She knew that Sheng Lu liked Yuan Chen. Once, she was taking a nap on a small garden swing in the library. That place was relatively hidden, and ordinary people standing outside would not be able to notice it. When she woke up, she saw a very beautiful girl staring in front of her in a daze. The longing and love in her eyes were not concealed at all. Qi Shishir was curious about which boy could win the favor of such a beauty when she saw a familiar back. Yuan Chen. He was also the person she liked. She suddenly felt a sense of crisis in her heart. Later, she found out that this exceptionally beautiful girl was called Sheng Lu, a cold and arrogant beauty. No one knew that this cold beauty secretly liked Yuan Chen, who many girls liked. After knowing Sheng Lu's elective course, she was even more determined to have this idea. At first, after Qi Shishir understood Sheng Lu's character, she was not very worried. Because of Sheng Lu's character, she was destined not to be liked. However, she could not help but use a little trick because Gu Xingyin's appearance was too unsettling. Only by completely eliminating her would she be able to breathe a sigh of relief. However, Gu Xingyin was very abnormal recently. Qi Shishir thought that she seemed to have changed into a different person. She had become more popular than before. Those classmates, who were obviously closer to her in the past, now kept talking about Sheng Lu. The one who made her the most uneasy was Yuan Chen. Yuan Chen did not hide his interest in Sheng Lu. It was almost an open secret that he was pursuing Sheng Lu. Although Sheng Lu had always acted bluntly in front of Yuan Chen, Qi Shishir had always thought that she was just putting on an act for the sake of being reserved. Qi Shishir was a little anxious. She began to appear in front of Yuan Chen frequently. Even Yuan Chen's roommates noticed something. The famous flower of the foreign languages department seemed to be interested in Yuan Chen. Not bad, you brat. He seduced the girl and made her move. Yuan Chen laughed and scolded, "Don't talk nonsense. Don't you know who I'm chasing?" Even so, he did not explicitly reject Qi Shishir. Being chased by such a beauty greatly satisfied his self-esteem. Anyway, Qi Shishir did not confess, so he pretended not to know. When Gu Xingyin found out about this, she still sighed. These two people, a scumbag and a scheming woman, she had to say that they were quite compatible. Chapter 303. When Gu Xingyin was eating in the cafeteria, that scumbag, Yuan Chen, came to her side. The few girls who were originally with her snickered and looked at each other. They expressed that they were full and quickly left with their lunch boxes. Yuan Chen was quite satisfied with their interest in knowing Sheng Lu. He looked eagerly at Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin clearly showed her disgust this time. "Why are you looking for me?" Yuan Chen was a little confused by her attitude. He did not understand. The two of them clearly got along well before, so why did Sheng Lu become like this now? "What's wrong with you? Do you have any misunderstandings about me?" he asked anxiously. Gu Xingyin looked back at him. "I remember clearly rejecting you, Yuan Chen. I heard the rumors about you and Qi Shishir. I don't accept your feelings. You can find whoever you want, but can you not come to me when you're having an affair with someone else?" Yuan Chen looked at her astonishingly beautiful face with a look of disdain. "People who don't know will misunderstand that I, Sheng Lu, am stealing a boyfriend with someone else." She looked at the lunch box on the table and lost her appetite. "I'm full. Goodbye." "Wait, it's not like that." Yuan Chen wanted to explain, but Gu Xingyin was too lazy to listen to him. She did not want to have anything to do with these two people. Yuan Chen had nowhere to vent his depression. Qi Shishir, who came to find him in the afternoon, became a vent. Qi Shishir, please don't come to me in the future. Yuan Chen looked at Qi Shishir. Although he had a smile on his face, Qi Shishir saw a trace of sarcasm in his eyes. Everyone knows that I'm pursuing your department's Xinglu. You're making things difficult for me. Yuan Chen finished speaking and left without looking back. Qi Shishir looked at his back and trembled with anger. What do you mean by making things difficult for you? It's not like I've been doing this for a day or two. Why didn't you say earlier or later? You just had to come to me after you met Xinglu. Yes, many people saw Xinglu and Yuan Chen meeting in the cafeteria this afternoon. Of course, Qi Shishir also heard the news from others. When she heard that the two of them seemed to have parted on bad terms, she was very happy. Who knew that Yuan Chen would be so ungentlemanly and vent his anger on a girl like her? Qi Shishir suddenly felt like crying. She walked blankly to a corner of a small garden, sat down, and covered her face with her hands. She thought that for this man, she had betrayed her own heart time and time again and played tricks to deal with Xinglu, who had no enmity with her. But what was the result? In return, he said, "You're making things difficult for me." In the dead of the night, she would despise herself for being like this. However, whenever she thought of Yuan Chen's sunny smile, she would hide this bit of regret in the deepest corner of her heart. She liked him. Even if he clearly expressed his disdain for her, even if he liked another woman, Qi Shishir, still liked Yuan Chen. She liked Yuan Chen so much that she didn't want to blame him. She could only push all the blame onto Xinglu. It was all this woman's fault. If it weren't for her, she would be the prettiest and most outstanding girl in the foreign languages department. Yuan Chen would definitely like her. Gu Xingyin couldn't read her mind. Otherwise, she would have said to Qi Shishir, "Miss, it's an illness that needs to be treated. Also, for a man like Yuan Chen, you can take it if you want. I won't take the blame." Chapter 304. Gu Xingyin thought that her previous words were still very hurtful to Yuan Chen, a young man in his early 20s. Yuan Chen hadn't appeared in front of her for a few days, which was enough to prove this problem. Without the third wheel affecting her mood, Gu Xingyin and Lu Zhongting's relationship could be said to have improved by leaps and bounds during this period. For example, Gu Xingyin's address for Lu Zhongting had changed from Senior Lu to Brother Lu. And Lu Zhongting directly abandoned the title of Junior Sister and called her Lulu. Seeing the way the two got along with each other, people who didn't know would really think that they were a couple who had been in love for many years. However, the two of them didn't know this at all. Of course, Lu Zhongting only felt that Gu Xingyin didn't know. He had always been committed to developing in this direction. He would wait until Xinglu got used to the days by his side little by little and penetrate into her life little by little until one day, she could no longer leave him. "That Yuan Chen didn't come to you, right?" After the dance practice, Lu Zhongting asked. Lu Zhongting said that he must know the movements of his love rival as soon as possible. Gu Xingyin shook her head. "Brother Lu, you are right. This kind of person should be rejected directly." Lu Zhongting chuckled. "In short, I don't think he is worthy of you. Except for him, there would be no other man." He paused for a moment and then said, "If I, Lu Zhongting, like someone, I will give her all my heart so that she won't be doubted at all." Gu Xingyin secretly thought that this man was confessing openly and secretly again, but on the surface, she looked sincere and envious. If Brother Lu likes any girl, she will be very happy. Lu Zhongting showed a meaningful smile. "Is that so? I hope that when the time comes, she will understand my feelings like Lulu." Qi Shishir had been doing a lot recently. She invited classmates to various gatherings and helped classmates with their daily necessities. In short, she was developing in the direction of a saint. Gu Xingyin could roughly guess some of her thoughts. It was nothing more than wanting to build up her reputation. However, her appearance was a bit too ugly. Gu Xingyin thought that the people in the first university were not fools. Qi Shishir was already very good in the past. Now, it was easy to see that there was some deliberate meaning in it. However, she seemed to be a little crazy. She wanted to let Yuan Chen see her and prove that she was better than Xing Lu except for her appearance. In this way, Yuan Chen would like her one day. These days, Yuan Chen didn't look for Xing Lu. Didn't this mean that he didn't like Xing Lu? She had a great chance, didn't she? However, she couldn't be happy for long. Because in and in front of the class, in front and Lulu in front of everyone's A's feet. There were more than 400 pairs, 400 of a big of course, a big S, A, of a A's, A's twos, or TSSS, and then / of S and Li and to make two and, I've thought it through these days. I like you, Xing Lu. Whether you like me or not, I, Yuan Chen, like Xing Lu. You don't have to accept me, but I won't give up. After he finished speaking, he ignored the stunned eyes of the crowd and looked at Gu Xingyin expectantly. Chapter 305. Gu Xingyin frowned. In fact, Yuan Chen's behavior really made her a little unhappy. She had always felt that this kind of confession in front of so many people was more or less coercive. If the two of them were in love with each other, it would be fine. In the end, they would have a happy ending, and the onlookers could still give them their blessings. However, what if the person who was confessed to had no feelings for the one who confessed? The one who rejected in public not only had to think about how not to hurt the other person's self-esteem, but also had to be the bad guy in front of everyone's cheers of, yes. After pausing for 2 seconds, Gu Xingyin said to Yuan Chen in front of her, someone is coming to the next class. Let's go out and talk. Hearing this, a trace of disappointment flashed in Yuan Chen's eyes, but he didn't say anything. The two of them left the classroom. The onlookers knew what Gu Xingyin meant, so they didn't follow them. Yuan Chen, I thought I made it clear last time. I don't like you. Yuan Chen looked straight at her. I also made it clear. Whether you like me or not, I like you. Gu Xingyin was speechless at his logic. I've made it clear. Yuan Chen, I hope you won't disturb my normal life. She got up and left. Gu Xingyin rubbed her eyebrows. She never expected that her previous words not only didn't make him give up, but also made him more determined. Lu Zhongting looked at the phone screen with a gloomy face. There was a clear video on it. It was the scene of Yuan Chen confessing to Gu Xingyin. You cannot accept me, but I won't give up. After a long time, he closed his phone, got up, and walked out. Gu Xingyin received a call from a certain man, which was expected. Dance practice? Today. Gu Xingyin thought that he was probably stimulated at this moment, so she was very willing to smooth his hair. The two of them danced 3 songs. When the last song was finished, the two of them maintained the posture of crossing their necks. Gu Xingyin's breath was a little short, the exercise was a little too much. After a moment of silence, Gu Xingyin was ready to leave, but Lu Zhongting had no intention of letting her go. He held Gu Xingyin's waist tightly with one hand and looked up at Gu Xingyin. I saw that video. Gu Xingyin said in her heart, but on the surface, she looked confused. What video? Just as she finished speaking, she felt the hand around her waist tighten. That video of Yuan Chen confessing to you. Gu Xingyin looked a little embarrassed. I've made a fool of myself in front of you, but can you let me go first? Lu Zhongting interrupted her faintly. I'm very unhappy. Gu Xingyin. Brother Lu, let's talk nicely, can you let go of me first? Lu Zhongting stared at her. So, Lulu, you have to comfort me. There seemed to be a black question mark above Gu Xingyin's head. Lu Zhongting looked at her still confused look and suddenly smiled. He seemed to sigh. I don't know how long it will take for you to be enlightened naturally. He seemed to have made up his mind with this sentence. Like a soft snowflake, he kissed Gu Xingyin on the corner of her lips. I like you, Lulu. He looked at her deeply, as if he wanted to see from her eyes to her heart. I'll be jealous when I see other men confessing to you. Gu Xingyin's face turned red. She struggled unbearably. Brother Lu, let me go first. Seeing her like this, Lu Zhongting knew in his heart that this girl had no feelings for him. Otherwise, she wouldn't be in this tone. Chapter 306. This time, he obediently let go of Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin's face was a little red. After being released by Lu Zhongting, she lowered her head and did not speak. Lu Zhongting looked at her with a smile. You don't hate me when I hug you, right? Gu Xingyin lowered her head and did not speak. Lu Zhongting continued, You don't hate me when I kissed you just now, do you? Gu Xingyin lowered her head even more. Lu Zhongting did not intend to let her go. When I confessed to you, you didn't reject me like you rejected Yuan Chen. He gently reached out his hand and raised Gu Xingyin's head to look at him. Silly girl, you actually like me too, right? Gu Xingyin was actually thinking about what she would do if it were Xing Lu. She looked at Lu Zhongting with a little confusion. I don't know. After saying this, her eyes suddenly became clear, and her expression returned to its usual calm and composed appearance. Brother Lu, give me 3 days. I admit that I have a good impression of you, but I'm not sure if this good impression can support the heavy weight of love. Her meticulous look made Lu Zhongting want to laugh. Even when it came to love, did he still have such a serious attitude? Okay, 3 days later, I'll wait for your answer. Although he said this, Lu Zhongting already had a card up his sleeve. Then. I still have something to do, so I'll leave first. Lu Zhongting watched Xing Lu leave calmly, but her somewhat hurried footsteps reflected that her mood was not as calm as she appeared to be. However, in fact, Gu Xingyin's mood was as calm as she appeared to be. In so many worlds, she had heard countless confessions from men. She believed that her lover had feelings for her. Otherwise, he would not be able to meet her in every world and fall in love with her. System, is it possible that one day, he will be like me, remembering the things in every world, remembering me? Gu Xingyin suddenly had some expectations. Although it was already a rare blessing to be able to meet one's lover in reincarnation after reincarnation, people would always subconsciously want more. She hoped that she wasn't the only one who remembered those beautiful memories. The system replied, strictly speaking, the possibility of this happening is extremely low. A normal human soul wouldn't be able to handle such a huge amount of information. Gu Xingyin retorted, normal humans can't accompany me through world after world, can they? The system was speechless for a moment. It kind of missed the host who was always curious about everything. It was getting harder and harder to fool the hosts these days. The system decided to play dead. Gu Xingyin gritted her teeth as she looked at the ball of white light. 3 days later. I've said it before. You're already causing me trouble. Gu Xingyin frowned at the person in front of him. Yuan Chen didn't care at all. He smiled confidently. I have the right to pursue you, don't I? Gu Xingyin thought that it was about time, so she said, but I already have someone I like. You're making it difficult for me. Yuan Chen's face was full of disbelief. You don't have to make up such a reason to reject me. She's not making it up. A clear voice came from behind him. Yuan Chen turned around and saw a man in a light gray windbreaker walking towards him. The man walked to his side, stopped, and looked at him. Junior, you're chasing my girlfriend. Are you provoking me? Chapter 307. Yuan Chen seemed to be unable to react to what he had said. He watched as Lu Zhongting ignored him after saying those words. He walked straight to Gu Xingyin's side and held her hand very naturally. Am I late? Gu Xingyin suddenly smiled faintly. No, you're just in time. Not only Yuan Chen, but even Lu Zhongting had never seen Xinglu smile. When the beauty smiled, it was like a new moon breaking through the clouds. It was as if she was really shrouded in a layer of dazzling light. Lu Zhongting tightened his grip on Gu Xingyin's hand. He was a little unhappy that such a rare scene was seen by another man. Let's go. I've made a reservation at the restaurant. He lifted Gu Xingyin's bag with one hand and held her hand with the other. When they walked past Yuan Chen, they nodded slightly at him. Yuan Chen watched the two of them walk away in a daze. Of course, he could see that the way the two of them interacted with each other was definitely not deliberately done to deceive him. Gu Xingyin and Lu Zhongting walked out of the school. Does this mean that I passed? Lu Zhongting did not let go of her hand and asked. Gu Xingyin did not speak, but she did not break free of his hand. In any school, there were always some interesting topics. For example, the school bell was in a relationship with a male god. Some people said that Yuan Chen did not come to class for 2 whole days. Others said that these days, Qi Shishir often appeared at the door of Yuan Chen's dormitory. This girl's feelings for Yuan Chen moved many people. Soon, it was the day of the performance. Qi Shishir arrived backstage early. She wanted to put on the most exquisite makeup, put on the most beautiful dance costume, and dance the best dance of her life. She wanted everyone to see who was better between her and Xinglu. Gu Xingyin watched Qi Shishir quietly from backstage. Her sleeves fluttered gently, and her willowy waist swayed. It was like a gentle breeze, and she was as light as a swan. It was indeed beautiful. After Qi Shishir finished her dance, she listened to the thunderous applause from the audience. When she got off the stage, she looked at Gu Xingyin provocatively. The stage suddenly darkened, leaving only a few faint lights. A familiar light melody slowly sounded, and a white figure glided to the center of the stage. It was Xinglu. Her pure white dress fluttered high in the air, like a butterfly that was enjoying itself in the garden, and finally, it happily pounced on its target. She slid into an embrace that had been waiting for her. When the light revealed another person's silhouette, the audience went into an uproar. It was Lu Zhongting. Lu Zhongting, who had never appeared in any performances before. It seemed that the rumors about the campus belle and her idol dating were definitely not a rumor. Adonis' super powerful girlfriend. The two of them, one in black and one in white, had an indescribable tacit understanding and affection between their dance steps. A hug, a hand-holding, and a look in their eyes. It was a collision of sparks and tenderness. Even the people below the stage could feel the deep affection and love between the two of them when they looked at them. Looking at their dance, I want to fall in love. Qi Shishir looked at the two of them dancing on the stage and suddenly felt that her little thoughts were a little ridiculous. It turned out that she could dance so well. It turned out that she didn't like to be flamboyant and show off. Does she know that I'm just like a clown in her eyes? Does she know that I'm just a laughable clown? Also, she looked at the two of them who were obviously in love with each other and suddenly had some doubts. Did Xinglu really like Yuan Chen? Did she get the wrong person for her little revenge? Chapter 308. This time, not only did the performance not suppress Xinglu as Qi Shishir had hoped, but it also allowed her to be in the limelight. Xinglu and Lu Zhongting also took this opportunity to express their relationship to everyone. The two of them were called the most compatible couple in the first university. Qi Shishir no longer found trouble with Gu Xingyin. Has she thought it through? Gu Xingyin saw that Qi Shishir's hatred for her had inexplicably decreased by a large amount and pondered. The system replied, maybe she thinks that you won't steal her boyfriend. Gu Xingyin lazily said, because she's worried that I'll steal the person she likes. She used all kinds of tricks on me. Now that she's sure that I won't be a threat to her, does she think that we can live in peace? Now that she's not targeting me, I'm not that kind of person. Gu Xingyin was waiting for an opportunity to repay Qi Shishir. Her popularity in the first university had improved a lot, and she had even joined 1 or 2 clubs. A year had passed, and when Lu Zhongting and Xing Lu's relationship had deepened, Gu Xingyin finally got the news she wanted. Yuan Chen was moved by Qi Shishir. As the saying goes, it's easy for a woman to chase a man, but Yuan Chen was obviously a rock that was hard to warm up to. However, no matter how cold and hard a rock was, in the face of an outstanding girl like Qi Shishir, who had been relentlessly pursuing him for such a long time, he would probably be moved. What's more, even the people around Yuan Chen couldn't stand it anymore. They all persuaded Yuan Chen that he should know how to cherish such a girl who treated him wholeheartedly. On the second day of Yuan Chen and Qi Shishir's relationship, an anonymous document was sent to Yuan Chen's mailbox. It contained some things that Qi Shishir had done in secret, including saying bad things about Xing Lu in some occasions, giving a large sum of money to a beggar to help ruin Xing Lu's reputation, knowing that Xing Lu was afraid of being touched by strangers, so they could approach her, and most recently, at the performance, she had added Xing Lu's name, which was originally not there. She was not the gentle and kind Qi Shishir at all. Yuan Chen was furious when he saw it. He immediately called Qi Shishir out and threw these things in front of her. Look at it yourself. What have you done? Yuan Chen felt that she had been deceived. Qi Shishir picked up the stack of documents and glanced at them. Her heart skipped a beat. Yuan Chen kept staring at her. Don't you think you owe me an explanation? Qi Shishir's heart skipped a beat as tears rolled down her cheeks. Do you think I'm willing? I admit it. I was the one who did it. She suddenly became agitated. She ignored the tears on her face and stared straight at Yuan Chen. But, who am I doing all this for? I've been apologizing to Xing Lu every night. Do you know how tormented my heart has been? I fell in love with you long ago, but you only have her in your eyes. I can't accept it. I envy her. I'm jealous of her. I thought that as long as she wasn't that good, your eyes would fall on me. Yuan Chen, it's you. You've turned me into this. Yuan Chen never expected that his questioning would receive such a response from Qi Shishir. After venting, Qi Shishir glanced at Yuan Chen and ran out with her face covered. Chapter 309. Gu Xingyin watched a big show. I didn't expect Qi Shishir to change the topic. Her ability is getting better and better. Gu Xingyin said to the system. Her words seemed like she admitted her mistake, but in fact, she pushed all the blame to Yuan Chen. Ridiculous. Gu Xingyin sneered. Yuan Chen is the scapegoat. Is he going to blame himself for being too outstanding and being loved by others? Someone forced Qi Shishir to do such a thing. In this world, there are many people who have a crush but can't get it. How many people are like her and deserve to be called unscrupulous? This woman is quite powerful. I think Yuan Chen will fall this time. Gu Xingyin finally concluded. Sure enough, there was no news of the two breaking up in school. Gu Xingyin didn't care much about the result of this matter. She had told Yuan Chen about what Qi Shishir had done, and it was just a small repayment. She wouldn't take the initiative to harm others, but she wouldn't be magnanimous enough to forgive those who tried to hurt her. After settling the matter between the two, Gu Xingyin began to fall in love with her lover wholeheartedly. These two people were usually seen from afar but not touched. No one would have thought that the two would be so dazzling after being together. For example, Master, this green pepper stewed tofu, don't use scallions. Stir-fry a pork shoulder, don't use ginger. The handsome man carefully instructed the chef in the cafeteria. Scallions and ginger were both things that Gu Xingyin didn't like to eat. Another example, here. Gu Xingyin handed over a bottle of juice in her hand. She opened a bottle and was about to drink it when Lu Zhongting snatched it away. He turned around and left. After a while, he came back with an identical bottle in his hand. Here. It's not good for girls to eat too much cold food. Another example, senior, you're here to pick up Xing Lu from class. Many girls in the class were already familiar with Lu Zhongting and greeted him. Yes. Lu Zhongting nodded. Hey, senior, what are you holding in your hand? Just then, Gu Xingyin walked out. Lu Zhongting took out a jacket from the bag in his hand. It's raining outside today. It's a little cold. The onlookers thought, I'm going to eat this dog food. Compared to the two of them, Qi Shishir and Yuan Chen were far less harmonious. This was especially true for Qi Shishir, who had been feeling especially mentally and physically exhausted. Although she didn't break up with Yuan Chen, the things she did were like a thorn in their hearts. Unable to pull it out, he could only watch as it took root and sprouted between him and Yuan Chen, unable to be removed. Therefore, she treated Yuan Chen even more wholeheartedly. She always felt that time would reveal a person's true nature. One day, Yuan Chen would let go of the grudge in her heart. However, she had forgotten that girls needed to be respected, especially by themselves. Only when you think highly of yourself will others think highly of you. Why is it eggplant? Don't you know that I don't like eggplants? I have an appointment with someone in the afternoon to play basketball. You can eat it by yourself later. Yuan Chen glanced at it with some disdain. She turned her head and left after saying that. Qi Shishir looked at the food that she had spent more than half an hour to cook, but it was left alone on the table without being cherished. It was as if her own heart was being disregarded like this. She was stunned for a long time. Finally, she slowly packed up the things. Chapter 310. When she went out, it was raining outside. Qi Shishir remembered that her umbrella had just been taken away by Yuan Chen. She looked at the rain outside. It was not very heavy, and her roommate was not around, so she simply walked into the rain. If she had not seen Lu Zhongting and Xing Lu, Qi Shishir thought that perhaps she would not have been so determined to break up. She walked quickly in the rain, and her wet bangs stuck to her face. Qi Shishir did not need to look to know that she looked very embarrassed at this moment. Her clothes were also wet and cold, and she could not help but shiver. The two figures in front of her became clear. Qi Shishir looked at the two of them in a daze. It was obvious that they were a couple. The boy was holding an umbrella and had one hand around the girl's shoulder. The girl was wearing a thick coat and was covered tightly. The boy was afraid that she would be drenched by the rain, so he leaned most of the umbrella in the girl's direction, ignoring his wet shoulder. She was a little envious of the girl who was treated like a pearl by her boyfriend. What about Yuan Chen? She had even taken away the only umbrella she had brought over, not considering that it was raining outside and she had to go home later. At this moment, the two of them seemed to be talking about something, and the girl's head turned toward the boy. Only then did Qi Shishir recognize that the person was Xing Lu. A secret sense of shame surged from the bottom of her heart, and she subconsciously slowed down her footsteps. Qi Shishir felt that she could show her embarrassment in front of anyone except Xing Lu. She could not show the slightest bit of a bad look in front of this woman. Seeing the two in front of her walk further and further away without noticing her, Qi Shishir finally heaved a sigh of relief. She knew that she felt inferior in front of Xing Lu. It was precisely because of this inferiority that she had to be strong everywhere and fight for her pride. However, the facts had proven that even if she won against Yuan Chen, so what? Wasn't she still not taken seriously? Qi Shishir did not expect that this matter was not over yet. She did not expect that her embarrassing appearance in the rain was not seen by Xing Lu, but by others. Not only was it seen by others, but it was also taken and posted on the forum. The two flowers of the foreign languages department are worlds apart after falling in love. The first picture that came into view was of Qi Shishir standing in the rain with her things in her hands. She was drenched from head to toe. In front of her was Gu Xingyin, who was tightly protected by Lu Zhongting. The anonymous OP also pointed out that at this time, Qi Shishir's boyfriend, Yuan Chen, was sweating profusely in the school's basketball court, not caring that his girlfriend was drenched in the rain. Below was a series of comparison pictures. It could be said that the more blissful Gu Xingyin's life was, the more miserable Qi Shishir's life was. Qi Shishir's mouse slid down. She carefully looked at every picture and every paragraph of text. Although the original poster was exaggerating, she had to admit that the photos in the post were real. Yuan Chen did not take Qi Shishir seriously. At this moment, the phone on the table rang. It was Yuan Chen. Qi Shishir did not know how she felt when she picked up the phone, but she knew that Yuan Chen must have seen the post. In fact, she still had some expectations, hoping that Yuan Chen would say something to her. As long as he realized that he was wrong and was willing to change. Qi Shishir thought. However, Yuan Chen's next sentence shattered all her hopes. Chapter 311. Did you see that post? The person who posted it is from the foreign language department, right? Go find him and ask him to delete the post. Yuan Chen's voice sounded exasperated over the phone. Qi Shishir's smile froze on her face. That's it? She heard her own calm voice. Yuan Chen seemed a little impatient. Then what else do you want? Qi Shishir suddenly felt that she was a fool for still holding on to some hope. Yuan Chen, don't you have anything to say to me? Yuan Chen felt that she was being ridiculous. If you have something to say, just say it. I don't have time to play riddles with you. Qi Shishir did not speak. She put down her phone and placed it on the table. Yuan Chen heard no sound from the other side and waited for a few seconds before hanging up the phone. Qi Shishir locked herself in the dormitory for 3 days. When her roommates felt that something was wrong and were about to tell the counselor, she got out of bed. She took out a new dress from the wardrobe and put on a delicate makeup. Qi Shishir looked at the exquisite and perfect woman in the mirror and went out with her bag. In 3 days, she did not receive a call from Yuan Chen. What's the matter? Yuan Chen looked at Qi Shishir with a trace of surprise in his eyes. Qi Shishir nodded. It's nothing serious. Yuan Chen, let's break up. Yuan Chen's expression froze. You said, break up. Yuan Chen felt that he might have heard wrongly. He frowned and looked at Qi Shishir. Are you sick? Qi Shishir's heart was calm. Yuan Chen, you didn't hear wrongly. I, Qi Shishir, am here to break up with you. She paused for a moment. In the end, she could not hold back the anger in her heart. She sneered at Yuan Chen. Do you think I will continue to be a fool and praise you to the heavens? Compare myself to the dust to love you? She sneered. Yuan Chen, you see. When I loved you, I was willing to do anything for you. Now that I don't love you, Yuan Chen, you are nothing in my eyes. She carried her bag and left without looking back. Qi Shishir could not help but cry. This is the last time I cry for him. A tall figure appeared in her blurred vision. Gu Xingyin ordered 2 cups of hot drinks. Thank you, Qi Shishir said in a low voice. Gu Xingyin took a sip and looked at her. You don't have to thank me in a hurry. I just came to see your sorry end. Qi Shishir's eyes widened as if she was meeting Gu Xingyin for the first time. Why? Are you surprised? Gu Xingyin looked at her. You're gentle, kind, and generous. Qi Shishir could do such a thing. She said a few words softly, and Qi Shishir's face turned pale. What Gu Xingyin said was the little trick she had used on Xinglu. Gu Xingyin wanted to see her like this. I'm just here for fun. What's so strange about it? Qi Shishir looked at the calm Gu Shengyin and felt a chill in her heart. With the Sheng family's strength, if they wanted to take revenge on her, in the end, she softened. I'm sorry, Gu Shengyin interrupted her. Don't say sorry. This is not something that can be solved with just an apology. Qi Shishir gritted her teeth. Then what do you want me to do? She was not stupid. Gu Shengyin must have a request for her. Otherwise, she could do whatever she wanted. Chapter 312. Leave the first university, leave the capital, and leave country C, don't ever appear in front of me again. Gu Shengyin stated her request word by word. This was what she had thought of from the beginning. In the original plot, Xinglu was also hurt by love and left the place she grew up in, never to return. Qi Shishir, naturally wanted to experience this feeling. Qi Shishir's face turned pale. Xinglu actually meant this. She wanted her to leave the place she grew up in and go to a completely foreign country. Why? She was somewhat puzzled. Why would she only make such a request? You don't need to ask why. You only need to know that if you do as I say, everything between us will be over. Gu Shengyin gently stirred the drink in her cup with a spoon and said. Qi Shishir understood her meaning. If she did not do as she said, she did not want to imagine Xinglu's unfinished words. Can you give me some time? She only had this one request left. Gu Shengyin nodded, 1 month. Qi Shishir was silent for a while. Suddenly, she raised her head and looked at Gu Shengyin. You like this? Does Senior Lu know? If he knew that his girlfriend was not as unworldly and noble as she appeared to be, would he still love you as much as before? Gu Shengyin smiled gently, her tone full of pride. You don't understand him, and you don't understand me. No one and nothing can separate the two of us. When she said this, her eyes flashed with something that moved people. Even when Gu Shengyin got up and left, she still sat there and did not return to her senses for a long time. Qi Shishir acted quickly. The Qi family was considered a wealthy family, so dropping out of school midway was not a difficult matter for them. Although the Qi family's parents did not understand why their daughter insisted on going abroad to further her studies, Qi Shishir had always reassured them, so they followed her wishes. A month later, Qi Shishir completed all the procedures and left the land that gave birth to her without telling anyone. Under the gaze of her parents, she left the land that gave birth to her. When Yuan Chen finally remembered his ex-girlfriend, he found that she had disappeared without a trace. No one knew where she went. Gu Shengyin did not care if he regretted or disapproved of the news of Qi Shishir going abroad. Gu Shengyin lazily leaned into Lu Zhangting's arms and said casually, that day, Qi Shishir asked me if you would feel cheated if you knew that I wasn't as cold and aloof as I seemed on the surface. On the contrary, I would play some tricks. In front of them was a huge floor-to-ceiling window, and the night view of the entire city was reflected in their eyes. Lu Zhangting hugged the person in his arms even tighter. Of course not. Our Lulu, no matter what she looks like, is still my favorite. Gu Shengyin smacked him. You're such a smooth talker. Lu Zhangting smiled. I'm telling the truth. If you can understand the human heart and know how to protect yourself, I'll be more at ease. Otherwise, if he was not by her side, he would have to worry about whether his little girlfriend would be hurt by people with ulterior motives. Gu Shengyin did not speak. She relaxed herself and snuggled up to the man. In fact, she already knew the answer of a lover, didn't she? No matter what you look like, no matter what your identity is. For life, I only want you. Chapter 313. The Heroine of This World. Gu Shengyin was shocked after reading the information. The heroine, Liang Qinyu, was the first daughter of the Grand Tutor of the Kingdom of Qi. She was famous for her beauty. When she was 14 years old, she was betrothed to Qin Yuanjing, the crown prince of Zhenbei Prince. The marriage of the Grand Tutor's mansion was proposed by the old princess of Zhenbei Prince, who was the mother of Zhenbei Prince and Qin Yuanjing's grandmother. They were supposed to be a perfect match. However, the Grand Tutor's mansion never knew that Qin Yuanjing had a childhood sweetheart, Zhang's daughter, Ming Shu. Therefore, when Liang Qinyu was 16 years old, she was married to Zhenbei Prince in a palanquin carried by 8 people. After the wedding ceremony, she was humiliated that her husband left her alone in the room on the wedding night. What was more intolerable was that on the second day of the wedding, when Liang Qinyu was serving tea to the elders according to the rules, she saw her husband, who was supposed to accompany her, come in with a woman in a bright dress. The woman was also in a red dress. Standing beside Qin Yuanjing, she looked more like the bride of Zhenbei Prince than Liang Qinyu herself. Liang Qinyu fainted on the spot. When she woke up, she saw the loving face of the old princess of Zhenbei Prince. You are the crown prince's wife that I begged with my old face. I know that Yuanjing has wronged you, but you are already husband and wife. There is nothing that can't be crossed between husband and wife. Don't worry, Zhang's daughter. I have sent her away. I also scolded Yuanjing. Take care of yourself. I am still waiting for you to give birth to a little great-grandson for me. What else could Liang Qinyu say? She endured it and told herself that she could take it slowly. Eventually, she could win back her husband's heart. She was a perfect wife and a perfect mistress. She took good care of the affairs of Zhenbei Prince's mansion. Although her husband, Qin Yuanjing, was not close to her, he never had concubines or stayed overnight in the red light district. Liang Qinyu thought that as long as she fulfilled her responsibilities as a wife, her husband would fall in love with her sooner or later. However, she did not expect that what she waited for was the news that Zhang's daughter was pregnant. That day, she went to the Guanshan temple to pray for blessings. On the way back, someone stopped her carriage. Madame Zhang's daughter's beautiful face appeared in front of her. Greetings, elder sister. Liang Qinyu sneered on the spot. In terms of status, I'm the wife of North Vanquishing Prince's heir, a second-rank honorary madam. You're just a commoner girl. What qualifications do you have to call me sister? In terms of kinship, you are the heir's cousin, so you should also call me sister-in-law. I don't know if Miss Zhang's family has taught you etiquette. Zhang Mingshu was on the verge of collapsing after hearing those words. Her beautiful face was covered in tears, and she didn't look pitiful at all. Elder sister, why do you have to humiliate me like this? I'm already 2 months pregnant and will enter the prince's mansion in a few days. It looks like elder sister can't tolerate me anymore. Liang Qinyu was shocked, but she didn't say anything. She just returned to the prince's mansion. She went to the princess consort's room on the spot and asked about Zhang Mingshu's matter clearly. It turned out that the old princess consort, Cheng Noa, drove Zhang Mingshu away that day because she sent her to a farm. It turned out that her husband came home late every day to work on official business. He never lingered on women because his heart and soul were tied to Zhang Mingshu. It turned out that the North Vanquishing Prince's mansion had already decided to take Zhang Mingshu in before she gave birth to a child. It turned out that all her efforts and hopes to win her husband back were just a joke. The Grand Tutor's mansion was the most upright in the imperial court. Liang Qinyu had been well educated since childhood and was familiar with etiquette, justice, integrity, and shame. How could she bear such humiliation? That night, she used the 3 feet of white silk to end her life. Chapter 314. After reading the plot, Gu Xingyin asked the system about the current time and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was not the time for Liang Qinyu, the heroine, to marry him. Now it was the 4th year of Xianda. Liang Qinyu had just become of marriageable age and there was still 1 year before she married into Prince Qianbei's mansion. After reading the original plot, Gu Xingyin had already come up with a plan to deal with the scumbag couple. Qin Yuanjing. You like your cousin, don't you? I will fulfill your wish. But I don't know if you will still be so happy when I am willing to fulfill your wish. Zhang Mingshu. Aren't you wholeheartedly devoted to your good cousin? I'd like to see if he doesn't love you. As an orphan, how can you stand in such a dirty place like Prince Shinbei's mansion? She got up slowly. The maid guarding outside the tent heard the movement and hurriedly lifted the curtain for her. Miss, are you awake? Yes. Gu Xingyin answered lazily. The gauze curtain embroidered with light-colored twining orchids was rolled up and fixed on both sides. Looking at Gu Xingyin's gradually revealing face, the maid Jianjia held her breath. Even though she grew up with Miss, she still couldn't help blushing every time she saw Miss's lazy appearance in the morning. Gu Xingyin did not overlook the maidservant's shocked eyes. He thought that Liang Qinyu must have a pretty face too. Sure enough, the girl in the mirror, although still young, had begun to grow up with a delicate and gorgeous face, which was enough to show that she would be a stunning beauty in the future. Was Qin Yuanjing blind? How could he leave such a beauty alone in an empty room? After freshening up with the maid's help, Gu Xingyin went to greet the elders every day as usual. The old madam of the Grand Tutor's mansion, Liang Qinyu's grandmother, was Ronghua Great Elder Princess. In terms of seniority, she was the grandaunt of the current emperor. She was also a very good friend of the old Princess Shinbei. You're finally here. Ronghua Great Elder Princess was nearly 60 years old, but she maintained herself very well. Her black hair, which had no white hairs, was meticulously tied into a bun. She wore a set of ruby jewelry the size of a pigeon egg, which showed her nobility. Great Elder Princess Ronghua had many grandchildren, including 3 granddaughters. Liang Qinyu was the only one she liked the most. Gu Xingyin blinked her eyes and snuggled into her grandmother's arms, acting coquettishly. Isn't you, the first one to greet grandmother every day? Great Elder Princess Ronghua smiled and said, yes, grandma's is the most filial one. These words were heard by the second Miss, Liang Jinyu, who had just entered. She covered her mouth and laughed. Grandmother, you have so many Which is the most filial? Great Elder Princess Ronghua was really amused this time. You are so talkative. My is the most filial. In fact, everyone knew that the mentioned by Great Elder Princess was only Liang Qinyu. Liang Qinyu was the oldest granddaughter in the Grand Tutor's mansion. When she was born, she was named Qinyu, and everyone in the family was used to calling her nickname It was not until Jinyu, the second miss of the Grand Tutor's mansion, was born that everyone remembered that the granddaughters of this generation were all named Yu. Could it be that all of them were named Yu? After a discussion, Liang Qinyu finally became the exclusive nickname of Yu. The other granddaughters were all called by the second character in their names. Liang Jinyu, the second miss, was called Jin, and Liang Lingyu, the fourth miss, was called Lin, As for the other daughters of concubines, they were not ranked according to this seniority. From this, it could be seen how much Liang Qinyu was favored in the family. Gigi said in the text that the book would be put on the shelves and charged on the 28th. This was specially for readers of QQ Browser, Apple Server, and other channels, because the author had something to say and the content couldn't be seen. Today, Gigi saw a comment from a reader in the book review on QQ Browser. Would there be a sudden charge? So I put it here and hope you don't mind me. Chapter 315. Grandma, I want to go out for a walk today. After breakfast, Gu Xingyin told her purpose. Ronghua Great Elder Princess had no reason to disagree. After carefully reminding her, she let her go. Gu Xingyin chose to go out today for a reason. After all, she had a cheat system at hand, so she knew the whereabouts of Qin Yuanzheng and Zhang Mingshu clearly. Not only was Gu Xingyin going out today, but she also wanted to take a few more people with her. Elder sister, where are we going to play? Liang Linyu of the second branch was only 10 years old now, which was the age of innocence. She had always liked Liang Qinyu, the beautiful elder sister, and was very close to her. Baotsue Pavilion has a new batch of jewelry. Let's go and have a look today. If you see anything you like, just tell me. Today, I will treat you. Gu Xingyin looked at the delicate little girl and said with a smile. Okay. Liang Linyu was very happy. Elder sister, wait for me. I will change my clothes. Gu Xingyin asked people to prepare the carriage, and she sat in the garden of the Liang mansion, waiting for Liang Linyu. But. Junior sister apprentice? A hesitant voice suddenly came. Gu Xingyin didn't expect that there was an outsider in this place. She was shocked and hurriedly got up and looked over. Qin Xiao only felt that she looked very cute when she stared at people. Gu Xingyin looked at the handsome man with a smile and instantly understood his identity, the current emperor, Emperor Xianda, Qin Xiao. Greetings, Your Majesty. Gu Xingyin hurriedly bowed. Don't be so polite. Qin Xiao raised his hand and helped her up. I am going out today in casual clothes. Junior sister apprentice, you don't have to be so restrained. He could see that Gu Xingyin seemed to be very nervous. For some reason, he thought of the way she stared at him in shock earlier. His heart softened, and he said with a smile, I've been studying with the Grand Tutor since I was a child, and I'm quite familiar with junior sister. Why are we so distant after just a few years? Junior sister, do you still remember your senior brother Changfeng? Gu Xingyin blinked her eyes, secretly thinking that her luck was not bad this time. Her lover was actually the emperor of this world. She had to hold on tight to this big leg. She could tell that Qin Xiao's words were to show that the two of them were close. Of course, she couldn't refuse his good intentions. Therefore, Qin Xiao could clearly feel that after he said those words, although the girl in front of him didn't say anything, the aura around her relaxed. He heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't know why, but the first time he saw her, he felt that she shouldn't be afraid of him. Just as he was about to say something, Liang Linyu had already changed into her traveling clothes. Gu Xingyin lowered her head and bowed. She said goodbye and left with Liang Linyu, who was confused. Qin Xiao was left standing there alone. After a while, he shook his head and smiled. Your Majesty, so you're here. Liang Jishan, the eldest young master of the Liang residence, asked. I had nothing to do, so I strolled around. Qin Xiao shook his head. He didn't know why, but he concealed the matter of his previous encounter with Gu Xingyin. Speaking of which, Gu Xingyin and Liang Linyu had already arrived at Baotsue Pavilion. Don't look at the tacky name of this Baotsue Pavilion, there were a lot of good things inside. Even many of the imperial family's nobles liked to come here to choose some good things that they liked. Of course, Gu Xingyin didn't just come here to buy things. She knew that today, Qin Yuanzheng would accompany her good cousin, Zhang Mingshu, to choose some jewelry and treasures. In the case of an engagement, he actually openly brought another woman to choose jewelry. Gu Xingyin thought, Qin Yuanzheng, your heart is so big. If I don't trick you, who will I trick? I recommend my gay friend Xiao Zhanggui's article, 100 Ways to Quickly Pass Through the Prince Charming. Let's guess, is Zhanggui a strong man or a cute girl? Chapter 316. Sure enough, not long after Gu Xingyin and Liang Linyu arrived, they received a system notification that Qin Yuanzheng and Zhang Mingshu were approaching. Soon, Gu Xingyin saw a gorgeous carriage stop at the entrance of Baotsue Pavilion. Then, a woman wearing plain clothes and a veil of the same color came down. Gu Xingyin looked at the woman carefully. She was a little thin, but she had a graceful bearing when she walked. Although he couldn't see her face because of the veil on her face, he could tell that she was a beauty from the pair of eyes that were exposed. Well, if she wasn't a beauty, why would Qin Yuanzheng not even step into the door of his wife's room for her? But she only got down from the carriage alone. Qin Yuanjing obviously didn't want to enter. Maybe he felt that it was beneath his status to go shopping with his cousin. Gu Xingyin had a guess in her mind, but she shook her head in the end. No matter what the reason was, it had nothing to do with her. She slowly looked at the items in the shop, but her attention was on Zhang Mingshu. At this moment, Zhang Mingshu was wearing a jade bracelet on each of her hands. The one on her left hand was green and pure. It was obvious that it wasn't an ordinary item. The one on her right hand was an extremely rare mutton fat white jade. It was flawless and matched with Zhang Mingshu's fair skin. It was indescribably beautiful. Zhang Mingshu was comparing her two hands at this moment. Her eyebrows were slightly knitted. She seemed to be troubled about which one to choose. Looking at her expression, it was obvious that she was reluctant to part with either one. The shopkeeper was very perceptive. How could he not see through her thoughts? He smiled kindly. In my opinion, these two bracelets are very suitable for young Mississippi. Young Miss has a fair complexion. You'll look good with either one. Hearing this, Zhang Mingshu smiled happily. Then I will wrap both of them up. The shop owner made a big order, so he was more attentive to Zhang Mingshu. Zhang Mingshu suddenly lifted her foot and walked towards the carriage. She stood beside the carriage and said something to the people inside. Looking at her reaction, she should be very happy. After a while, Zhang Mingshu returned to the store. The store owner asked her which mansion she was sending the items to. Zhang Mingshu raised her head slightly and said proudly, I'm from the North Jinbei mansion. But you don't have to send it over. Just put it in the carriage outside. Someone will come to pick it up. I'll keep looking. When the shopkeeper heard this, his expression became even more respectful. At this time, Liang Linyu suddenly tugged at Gu Xingyin's sleeve and whispered, Big sister, North Jinbei mansion, isn't it because of you? Gu Xingyin glared at her. Liang Linyu stuck out her tongue and murmured, I've never heard that there is a princess in Lord Jinbei's mansion. Gu Xingyin thought, of course not. But North Vanquishing Prince doesn't have a commandery princess, while North Vanquishing Princess Consort has an extremely precious niece. Zhang Mingshu was being led around by the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper probably wanted to find a topic to compliment Zhang Mingshu. Somehow, he talked about the person in the carriage. I see that you keep looking at the carriage. Is it because your sweetheart is waiting for you? You're so lucky. Zhang Mingshu blushed and didn't refute. Seeing this, the shopkeeper became more excited, I don't know when you will have a good thing. Now I'm here to congratulate you. Although Zhang Mingshu was shy, she was in a good mood because of his compliment. She pointed to several things to wrap up. Gu Xingyin sneered. Zhang Mingshu already knew that Qin Yuanzheng had been granted a marriage and the bride couldn't be her. But she still acted like this, which was really disgusting. Chapter 317. Gu Xingyin thought of something and slowly walked to the place where Zhang Mingshu was looking at the bracelet. Show me this. She said softly. Her voice was so beautiful that Zhang Mingshu, who was not far away, looked at her. Gu Xingyin pointed at the mutton fat white jade bracelet that Zhang Mingshu had bought earlier. Because Gu Xingyin was wearing a curtain on her head, the waiter couldn't see her face. However, just by looking at her clothes, although they were not gorgeous, they were all very exquisite, especially the jade buckle on her waist. The waiter could guarantee that she was definitely a person of high status. He took out the mutton fat jade bracelet eagerly. Then everyone saw that the lady stretched out her hands that had been hidden in her sleeves. Liang Qinyu's appearance was incomparably beautiful. However, the most amazing thing about her was not her face, but her snow-white, translucent, and flawless skin. So when she stretched out her hands and put them next to the bracelet. The bracelet was still the same bracelet, but everyone felt that it had changed. It was not white enough, not translucent enough, and not flawless enough. In short, it was not worthy of those precious hands. Even the waiter had an impulse to stop the customer from putting on the bracelet. When the bracelet was put on the hands, it was like a shadow suddenly appeared in the flawless sea of snow. Sure enough, Gu Xingyin picked up the bracelet and looked at it. She shook her head gently. The color of this bracelet is not good. Shopkeeper, do you have a better one? The waiter secretly complained in his heart, this mutton fat white jade bracelet is already the best in our shop. It is obvious that the customer's skin is too beautiful and flawless, but she blames the color of the bracelet for not being good enough. The waiter didn't read many books, so he couldn't think of any more compliments. Seeing Zhang Mingshu's obviously ugly face, Gu Xingyin had achieved the effect of slapping her face. She saw the waiter hesitate and smiled, well, I was just asking casually. You go ahead, I'll take a look myself. At this moment, Zhang Mingshu had already walked towards the carriage. From the carriage, a blue-robed young master came down. When Gu Xingyin looked over, she could only see a back view. Soon after, Zhang Mingshu entered the carriage and the curtains were lowered. At this time, the two madams not far from them spoke. One of the ladies, who was wearing a royal blue robe, said doubtfully, I think that person seems to be the crown prince of North Vanquishing Prince. The lady beside her nodded. That's right. The one who spoke earlier was puzzled. Wasn't the crown prince of North Vanquishing Prince betrothed? Could that person just now be the young miss of Grand Tutor Liang's estate? Another madam smiled and said, how is that possible? The Grand Tutor's residence is famous for its family's integrity. How could Miss Liang casually board another family's carriage? Her tone suddenly became sarcastic. Men, you know. Who doesn't have a few close female friends? Anger flashed across the face of the lady in the royal blue robe, but it eventually turned into a sigh. What a pity. The young misses of Grand Tutor Liang's Fu mansion are all good, but I didn't expect that. Hearing their words, Liang Linyu's face had already turned pale. Big sister, the crown prince of North Vanquishing Prince they mentioned. Liang Linyu looked at Gu Xingyin in disbelief. Gu Xingyin's face was also not very good. I'm going to ask him. Liang Linyu was still young and spoiled at home. Of course, she could only think of the simplest way at this time. Gu Xingyin hurriedly pulled her. This would certainly make the mansion of North Vanquishing Prince lose face, but in this way, Liang Qinyu's reputation would also be ruined. Let's go back and tell grandmother and wait for her to make a decision. I'm addicted to tweets today. I recommend my close friend Naylan Mo's article, Fast Transmigration Strategy, A Girl's Companion. The person is very cute, and the article is even cuter. Chapter 318. After this incident, the two sisters were not in the mood to continue shopping, so they got on the carriage and went back home. Liang Linyu ran to the courtyard of Great Elder Princess Ronghua as soon as she got back. Gu Xingyin was afraid that her sister's outspoken words would annoy her grandmother, so she followed her in a hurry. Is what your sister said true? Great Elder Princess Ronghua was trembling with anger. Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin felt a little embarrassed, but she still nodded while biting her lips. Great Elder Princess Ronghua pounded the table angrily, what a North Prince's mansion. What a bastard Qin Yuanzheng. She even scolded the bastard, which showed how angry Great Elder Princess was. She ordered the chief maid beside her, go and call the first madam here. The first madam she mentioned was the wife of Grand Tutor Liang Qinyu's mother, Meng. Meng came quickly, but before she had time to greet, she was stopped by her mother-in-law and told her what Liang Linyu had told her. Meng's family was naturally very prominent since she was chosen as the daughter-in-law by Great Elder Princess at that time. She was the legitimate daughter of Lord Protector and the younger sister of Meng Qikong, the current Lord Protector. Meng's reaction was similar to that of Great Elder Princess, who was furious after hearing this. What happened next was not suitable for Liang Linyu, a little girl, to know.
After repeatedly warning her not to tell others about it, Great Elder Princess Ronghua and Meng began to discuss how to deal with it. Gu Xingyin was left in the courtyard. According to Great Elder Princess, this matter was originally related to her. Moreover, she was so old that she had to learn some things that she should know slowly. Meng sent someone out to inquire about the news on the same day. 3 days later, Great Elder Princess and Meng's faces turned blue when they heard the news. Eating at the same table and eating together since childhood. The servants of North Prince's mansion all treat her as the princess consort. Harmony between the zither and the zither. Good. Good. Very good. Great Elder Princess Ronhua's hands were shaking. Come on, take my court dress. Great Elder Princess Ronghua said sternly. Great Elder Princess Ronghua, in full makeup, went to the palace to pay her respects. At the same time, Mrs. Meng didn't stay idle. She dressed up and paid a visit to the North Vanquishing Prince's mansion. Great Elder Princess Ronghua said that she was going to the palace to pay her respects, but in terms of seniority in the palace, who could accept her salute? The present emperor had not yet married, so she went to the Empress Dowager's palace. Even the Empress Dowager had to address her as Auntie. As soon as Great Elder Princess Ronghua entered the palace, Empress Dowager got the news and came out to greet her in person. Unexpectedly, as soon as they met, Great Elder Princess Ronghua directly knelt down and began to cry. The Empress Dowager was a little confused by this and hurriedly asked someone to help Great Elder Princess up. It took her a while to figure out what had happened. North Shinbei Mansion is actually such an unruly family. The Empress Dowager couldn't believe it. How could there be a young mistress in the manor before the mistress had even entered the manor? Aunt, don't worry. I will make the decision for you. The Empress Dowager comforted Great Elder Princess Ronghua with kind words, and then ordered people to invite the emperor to come up. After all, this marriage was personally decreed by His Majesty. No matter what decision was made, it would not be good to go against His Majesty. Hearing that the Empress Dowager invited him, Qin Shao, who had always been filial, hurried over. After hearing what had happened, somehow, the first thing that came to Qin Shao's mind was the pair of black and round eyes he saw in the back garden of the Grand Tutor's mansion that day. Chapter 319. At that time, he thought that whoever was lucky enough to marry such a young girl would definitely dote on her for the rest of his life. But he didn't expect that such a thing would happen in Prince Shinbei's mansion. However, he also knew that if this kind of thing was really made public, it would also be a big blow to the Grand Tutor's mansion and her reputation. I will issue an edict to reprimand Prince Shinbei for not managing the family well. Great Aunt, please take care of yourself, he finally said. Great Elder Princess Ronghua's crying was more of an act than an expression of her true feelings. At this time, she got the result she wanted, so she no longer insisted. At the same time, Madame Meng was sitting in the hall of Prince Shinbei's mansion. Madame Meng, what brings you here? Although Princess Shinbei was surprised that Madame Meng dressed so carefully and came uninvited, after all, Grand Tutor was trusted by His Majesty, and Madame Meng was the future in-law, so she still smiled. Madame Meng gently picked up the teacup in front of her with her hand and gently touched it a few times, but she didn't drink it in the end. I don't dare to accept your kindness. But I heard that there is a young lady in the mansion who grew up with heir of Prince Shinbei. Can I meet her? Madame Meng said lightly. Hearing Madame Meng mention Zhang Mingshu, Princess Shinbei's face was obviously unnatural. Hearing Madame Meng's words, she smiled and said, Madame Meng, you are talking about my niece Zhang Mingshu. I pity her for losing her parents at a young age, so I took her in and raised her. Why do you know her, Madame Meng? Madame Meng gently put the teacup back on the table. Although her movement was not big, the teacup still made a clink sound. Madame Meng said with a faint smile, I didn't know. But a few days ago, when I was out on business, I happened to see heir of Prince Shinbei being intimate with a woman in white.
Others even called her madam, which scared me. Her expression turned cold. I never knew that my Liang Mengshi had a daughter like that. Princess Jinbei's face finally changed. She never expected that her son would be so unscrupulous outside. In the capital city, there were many people who knew the marriage between Prince Jinbei's mansion and Grand Tutor's mansion. If he was not careful, he would easily be exposed. She forced a smile and said, "There must be some misunderstanding." Mrs. Meng didn't give in. "Then, please explain to me. What's the misunderstanding?" Suddenly, a delicate voice came from outside the door. "I heard that there are guests." Lady Meng raised her head and saw a graceful figure in white walking towards them. Her face was like a hibiscus, her brows were like willow leaves, and her lips were like cinnabar. She was indeed a rare beauty. Mrs. Meng looked at her clothes and had an idea. "So this must be the famous Miss Zhang?" Madame Meng asked. Zhang Mingshu was a little curious. "I'm Zhang Mingshu. May I know who Madame is?" Madame Meng smiled meaningfully. "I'm the mistress of Grand Tutor Liang's mansion. I wonder if Miss Zhang knows who I am." Zhang Mingshu's face turned pale. Of course, she knew what kind of place Grand Tutor Liang's residence was, and she also knew who this madam was. The mother of his cousin's future wife. Seeing her on the verge of collapse and the distressed look in North Consort's eyes, Lady Meng knew what was going on. He sneered. Not wanting to see their faces anymore, he got up and left. Chapter 320. As soon as the Meng family left, North Prince's mansion received an imperial edict from the palace. The imperial edict was issued by the Empress Dowager, and the content was nothing more than that North Prince's mansion was not strict enough and the internal affairs were in chaos. The eunuch recited a lot of things and finally pointed to the two nannies with serious and rigid faces behind him. "These two are old nannies in the palace. They were specially sent by the Empress Dowager to help you, Princess Consort." When the old princess got the news, the eunuch in the palace had already gone back to report. After listening to her daughter-in-law's story, how could she not understand the whole story? Maybe the Liang's mansion knew about Zhang Mingshu's matter and specially came to make her daughter proud. She asked the princess, "What are you going to do about it?" The princess hesitated for a moment, raised the two nannies. The old princess interrupted her, "I'm asking you, Zhang Mingshu, what are you going to do?" The princess looked pleading, "Mother, Mingshu is still young, you are so silly." The old princess stomped the ground with her crutch. "The imperial edict has come from the palace. Don't you see that it is the superior who is helping the Liang's mansion? At this time, Zhang Mingshu can't stay in the mansion anymore. Tomorrow, no, today, arrange for her to be sent away. Tomorrow, you come with me to the Grand Tutor's mansion to apologize." The princess looked dissatisfied. "Mother, we are the North Prince's mansion anyway. Why do we have to do this?" The old princess glanced at her stubborn daughter-in-law and felt that she was really blind at that time. "North Prince's mansion, do you think we are still as glorious as when the late king was still alive? Now, the Liang's family is an important minister of the emperor. Otherwise, why would I give up my face to marry the daughter of the Liang's mansion for Yuanjing? Your Highness, I got the news that Zhang Mingshu has been secretly sent away by North Prince's mansion." Great Elder Princess Ronghua nodded with satisfaction. Fortunately, North Prince's mansion is not too silly. Otherwise, my Yu will never marry into that kind of place even at the risk of my reputation. The next day, the old princess of North Prince's mansion came in person with her daughter-in-law. The two families were happy and harmonious, and no one could tell that they were at daggers drawn the day before. Gu Xingyin was amazed. She was quite satisfied with the results this time. Gu Xingyin didn't expect to cancel the marriage between the two families at once. Not to mention that the marriage between the two families was granted by the emperor. The matter between Qin Yuanjing and Zhang Mingshu was not a big deal in the eyes of these people. Which man wouldn't like a young and delicate body? Zhang Mingshu had no status and was not pregnant. She was equivalent to a plaything. Unless it was absolutely necessary, the two families would not fall out with each other. However, Gu Xingyin didn't want to enter the Prince Chenbei's mansion again. There's still a year left. You too, there's still plenty of time. She didn't know that Qin Yuanjing hated the Liang residence because of this. He felt that if it wasn't for the Liang estate going too far, why would he be separated from his cousin? Gu Xingyin had always despised such people to the core. What did he think of Zhang Mingshu by doing this? In the last life, if Liang Qinyu hadn't died, Zhang Mingshu would have been at most a concubine. Was this the so-called love of this man to let his beloved woman be a lowly concubine? It was really great. Perhaps Zhang Mingshu's love for him was also so great. However, even if it was such a love, she didn't want them to have it. Chapter 321. Qin Yuanzheng was currently drinking alone. He was in a very bad mood. Anyone would be in a bad mood if they were forced to separate from their childhood sweetheart. Although Zhang Mingshu had only been sent to a side courtyard in the northern garrison prince's estate, and Qin Yuanzheng could still visit her when he missed her, the two of them were currently in a honeymoon period. Being forced to separate was still quite painful. At this moment, he was half drunk when he heard someone beside him say, "It is said that when Song Ju will be displaying Master Han Shi's painting today. Brotherly, are you willing to come with me to take a look?" Of course. Qin Yuanzheng's heart skipped a beat. Master Han Shi. Qin Yuanzheng had two passions in his life. One was painting, the other was wine. Unfortunately, his close female friend was not proficient in either of them. Master Han Shi was the most famous painter of the previous dynasty. His skills had already reached the pinnacle of perfection. The people of the world called him the painting saint. He immediately put down the wine cup in his hand and walked towards Wen Song Ju. "Everyone, today we will be displaying Master Han Shi's most proficient painting, the dim yellow bamboo painting. Please take a look." A middle-aged man dressed like a scholar said in a clear voice. At the same time, he slowly unfurled a painting scroll. On the scroll, there were patches of bamboo forest, scattered cold stones, and gurgling streams. Master Han Shi was worthy of being called a master. With just a few strokes, he had vividly displayed a dim yellow bamboo painting in the depths of the mountains in front of everyone. Many people began to click their tongues in admiration. Finally, the middle-aged scholar revealed his purpose. The general idea was that his family had encountered a great change and he had no choice but to sell his family's collection. This Master Han Shi's painting was one of the most precious works in his collection. He hoped that a fated person would be able to obtain it. How could Qin Yuanzheng let go of such an opportunity? He immediately opened his mouth to offer a price. However, there were many rich people in the capital. For a moment, there were actually many people competing to raise the price. Qin Yuanzheng was already a bit annoyed. Just as he was about to shout out a high price, he suddenly smelled a faint fragrance. He didn't know what kind of perfume it was, but it lingered in his nose and made him feel refreshed. Immediately after, he felt his sleeve being pulled by someone. Turning his head, he met a pair of eyes as bright as the stars. Without a doubt, this pair of eyes was shockingly beautiful, causing Qin Yuanzheng to be slightly dazed. The woman's face was covered with a veil as she softly said, "This young master is too presumptuous. This painting doesn't seem to be authentic." Her voice was clear and crisp, like the collision of gold and jade, extremely pleasant to the ears. Qin Yuanzheng was attracted by her voice and the content of her words. He unknowingly followed her to the private room on the second floor. "I wonder if you have any proof that the painting is fake." Qin Yuanzheng still remembered the important matter. The woman, Gu Xingyin, chuckled. "Dare I ask, young master, what are the characteristics of Mr. Han Shi's brush strokes?" Qin Yuanzheng answered without thinking, "His strength penetrates the paper, his arrogance is unruly, and his painting is just like him. Gu Xingyin nodded. Then, young master, please think about it again. Was the painting just now like this? Qin Yuanjing frowned. I've seen that painting. It's indeed Mr. Han Shi's style. No. His eyes suddenly lit up. I know. That really isn't Mr. Han Shi's work. He thanked Gu Xingyin. Many thanks for your words. Gu Xingyin smiled. It's just a small matter. I don't want to deceive someone who truly loves painting. Although she was wearing a veil, when she smiled, the beautiful outline of her face could be vaguely seen. Under the veil, it was even more fascinating. Qin Yuanjing was stunned for a moment. Chapter 322. Young Master. Qin Yuanjing recovered from his trance. He was secretly annoyed that he had been absent-minded in front of a woman whose face he had never even seen. If Xu knew, she would be sad again. Thinking of Zhang Mingshu, his expression darkened again. Gu Xingyin looked at him like this and did not know what to do. She gently lowered her beautiful neck. Her exposed skin was plated with a layer of seductive pink because of shyness. Qin Yuanjing's heart fluttered again. He could not help but look at the woman in front of him. He thought carefully in his mind. What kind of beauty was under the veil? Young master, I will take my leave. Gu Xingyin had achieved her goal, so she said goodbye. Qin Yuanjing wanted to stop her and ask for her name. However, looking at the quality of her clothes, he knew that she was not a girl from a small family. He felt that it would be too rash to ask for her name. So, he just watched Gu Xingyin go downstairs and disappear into the crowd. He drank a mouthful of wine and hid the sense of loss in his heart. Gu Xingyin, after going downstairs, let out a sigh of relief. She was not nervous. She was disgusted that she had to pretend to be a shy woman in front of a scumbag like Qin Yuanjing. Young miss. She went out of the door and went around a corner. An inconspicuous carriage with blue curtains was parked there quietly. The servant girl, Jian Jia, was calling her in a low voice. Seeing Gu Xingyin go out, Jian Jia was relieved. Just now, the young miss insisted on going to Wensong residence to see Master Hanqi's painting. She did not allow them to follow her. Jian Jia had been restless in the carriage, afraid that something had happened to the young miss. Young miss, are we going back now? Jian Jia asked. Gu Xingyin shook her head. It was rare for her to go out. If she only met a scumbag, wouldn't it be too boring? Let's go to the south of the city. Gu Xingyin rolled her eyes and thought of a good place. Mr. Qin, this is where Mr. Chen lives, a man in green said respectfully to a man in blue. This was a courtyard that was not lit up. Above the main gate, there were two large, flamboyant characters that read, Chen Residence. That blue-robed young master had clear features, and when he smiled, it was like the moon and the wind. Looking closely, it was the person that Gu Xingyin had met in the back garden of the Fu, the present Holy One, Xian the Emperor Qin Shao. Fu Shi, do you think this Mr. Chen will be willing to become an official? Qin Shao asked. The person next to him bowed. With a master like you who respects the wise, which scholar in the world wouldn't want to choose a wise master? Qin Shao smiled and did not comment on his answer. Go and call the door. At the same time, a green curtain carriage slowly came to a stop one street away from the Chen estate. Young miss, what are we doing here? Jian Jia asked. Gu Xingyin looked at this courtyard that had just been renovated. Even the main gate was newly painted. From the materials used to decorate the gate, it could be seen that the owner of this house had put in a lot of thought. Such an exquisite courtyard, it seemed that Zhang Mingshu had lived well here. Gu Xingyin could not tell other people that she had just come to see the house that Qin Yuanjing used to hide his mistress. She said slowly, I heard that there is a street of wondrous items here. Most of them are imported goods from overseas, so I wanted to come and see. Jian Jia muttered, those goods from overseas, which of the good things have not been offered to the palace? Every time Darren receives a reward, when has it not been given to you first? Why come and see these inferior things? But since it was the master's request, as servants, they could only listen. Chapter 323. Gu Xingyin alighted from the carriage with Jianjia and Jilan following behind her as they strolled along the street of strange objects. On this street, there were many young ladies like her who wore a veil and had servants following behind them. Therefore, they did not stand out. Although the kingdom of Qi was not very strict with women's etiquette and they were allowed to go out without a veil, some young ladies from noble families would usually cover their faces to show off their noble status. Although the things on this street of strange objects were not considered expensive, they were interesting in their own way. Gu Xingyin looked around as she walked. The two servants behind her clicked their tongues in wonder. Young lady, what are you looking to buy? Jilan asked curiously. They had seen many things along the way, but they had never seen their young lady interested in anything. Gu Xingyin smiled mysteriously, of course, it's something that everyone likes. Jilan did not understand, but Gu Xingyin did not intend to say much. Soon, she saw her target. Western Mansion. This was a shop that specialized in selling all kinds of Western and overseas items. It was said that the owner of this shop was a big sea merchant. The items here were considered to be the best in the entire street of strange objects. Gu Xingyin walked in because the person she wanted to see was here. Sure enough, the moment she entered, she saw a figure in white followed by a servant girl. The two of them were looking at things. Gu Xingyin actually admired Zhang Mingshu. Every time she saw her, she would wear a different plain white dress. In the kingdom of Qi, white was not a popular color. For the ladies of the Liang family, there were all kinds of clothes, pink, red, yellow, green, and so on. Only white clothes, other than the winter cloaks and cloaks made of white fur that were beautiful, there were basically no white clothes. Which elder did not like their juniors to wear festive clothes? Instead, they liked to wear white as if they were in mourning. However, it was said that some men liked this kind of soft and delicate appearance. Didn't Qin Yuanjing like this? Zhang Mingshu did not wear a veil or a curtain when she went out. Gu Xingyin walked to her side and found that she was looking at a pile of red and blue gemstones. Gu Xingyin had a lot of these things. Every time a foreign country sent a tribute, the emperor liked to give some to the important officials. As the imperial tutor, Grand Tutor Liang always got the best portion. Of course, most of those, flashy but impractical, things ended up in Liang Qinyu's courtyard. Therefore, although these things were precious, they were not enough to catch Gu Xingyin's eyes. On the contrary, there were some things that were suspicious. Gu Xingyin watched Zhang Mingshu pick and choose silently. After a while, she seemed to have finally chosen. Gu Xingyin took a closer look, and sure enough, she held the most beautiful red gem in her hand. The shopkeeper beamed with joy. This red gem was one of the most expensive ones. If he could sell it, he would make a lot of money. Zhang Mingshu was about to pay the bill when Gu Xingyin walked to her side lightly. Shopkeeper, please wait a moment. The shopkeeper looked at Gu Xingyin in confusion. Gu Xingyin laughed softly and said, "This red gem is precious, but it has to be worth the price for the customer to buy it. Don't you think so, shopkeeper?" Zhang Mingshu looked at her in surprise. She carefully thought about the meaning of her words and looked at the shopkeeper with uncertainty. Chapter 324. As soon as the shopkeeper heard Gu Xingyin speak, he knew that she did not come with good intentions. He looked up and down at Gu Xingyin. When his eyes landed on the inconspicuous lake green dress she was wearing, his pupils shrank. For a businessman like him, the most important thing was to have a pair of discerning eyes. If he was not wrong, the material of the clothes on the woman in front of him should be Qianhu green, from Jiangnan. Clothes made of Qianhu green would sway slightly when she walked, giving off a feeling of sparkling light when she slept. It was very popular among the harem of the rich and powerful. Qianhu green was extremely precious and rare. Even in a year, there were only a few dozen pieces. Most of them were used as tributes. Those who could afford to use Qianhu green to make clothes, the shopkeeper forced a smile on his face. "Miss, what can I do for you?" Gu Xingyin did not want to speak up for Zhang Mingshu. She just had her own motives and did not want to offend people because of this. "I happen to have a box of such rubies at home. Whether it is the color or the transparency, they are much better than yours. This price is not very generous of you," she pointed out. As expected, the shopkeeper's expression changed. He forced a smile and bowed to Zhang Mingshu. "I am really sorry, Mississippi. This ruby originally belonged to our lady boss and was not for sale. Who would have thought that I would put it in the wrong place today and let you see it? I purposely quoted a high price to make you back off. I apologize to you here." Even if Zhang Mingshu did not know the situation, she knew that there was something wrong with the ruby. Her expression was not good. She did not want to buy the things she had chosen earlier. She turned her head and saw that Gu Xingyin had already stepped out of the door. She quickly chased after her with her maid. "Miss, please wait a moment." Zhang Mingshu called out softly from behind Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin was waiting for her to call out. She stopped in her tracks. "Miss, are you calling me?" Zhang Mingshu hurried a few steps to catch up with Gu Xingyin. "Thank you for speaking up for me just now." Gu Xingyin smiled faintly. "I just can't bear to see that shop owner passing off shoddy goods as good ones." Zhang Mingshu thought for a moment and said, "Thank you so much for today, Mississippi. I wonder if I can treat you to a meal to express my gratitude." Of course, Gu Xingyin refused. Of course, Zhang Mingshu wouldn't let her refuse, so in the end, Zhang Mingshu invited Gu Xingyin to her home. "Miss Zhang lives alone?" Gu Xingyin pretended to be surprised and asked. Upon hearing her question, Zhang Mingshu's eyes reddened. Gu Xingyin quickly apologized. Zhang Mingshu changed the topic and chatted with Gu Xingyin about something else. She was surprised to find that this new friend of hers was extremely knowledgeable. No matter what she said, she could respond and was very considerate of her feelings. For a moment, Zhang Mingshu felt that Gu Xingyin was her bosom friend. Although she lived in Jinbei Mansion as a guest in the capital, she was just an orphan girl whose parents had both died. Those noble ladies didn't like her. Therefore, although Jinbei Mansion often took her out, she didn't make many good friends. Since she was settled in this courtyard, it was even harder for her to find someone to talk to. It was rare to meet someone she could talk to. Of course, Zhang Mingshu was happy. By the time the servants served the food, Zhang Mingshu had already called her sister Meng. Of course, Gu Xingyin couldn't tell her family name. She only said that her surname was Meng, using her mother's surname. Chapter 325. Zhang Mingshu had already secretly thought about the families with the surname Meng in the capital. However, the Meng family was a big family. Just in the capital, there were no less than 10 families. She couldn't guess which family Gu Xingyin was the young miss of. When Gu Xingyin was eating, she took off the curtain on her head. Zhang Mingshu only felt that the room was full of light. She had always been proud of her appearance, but she didn't think that she would meet a person who would compare herself to dust. She suppressed the jealousy in her heart and said with a smile, "Sister Meng's beauty really makes people feel ashamed." Gu Xingyin smiled brightly. "People like us don't need to rely on our beauty to serve people. Why should we take it too seriously?" These words happened to poke at Zhang Mingshu's soft spot. That's right, for high-ranking young misses like Sister Meng, everything was arranged by their families' fathers and brothers. They could find a good son-in-law by relying on their family's status. Why would they need to be like her, advancing step by step to earn a future for themselves? She was a little disinterested after that. Gu Xingyin saw her expression and knew that she must be thinking a lot, so she left after sitting for a while. However, Gu Xingyin didn't expect that when she left, she was seen by someone. Qin Shao recognized at a glance that the person who came out of the mansion was his little junior sister, Liang Qinyu. Logically speaking, the two of them weren't too familiar with each other. He didn't pay much attention to this little junior sister before, but somehow, she was still wearing the curtain and was recognized by him at a glance. However, the Liang family didn't seem to have a mansion here. Suspicions arose in his heart, and he ordered the people around him, find out who the owner of this house is. In addition, investigate what my little junior sister did today and who she met. He was worried that Liang Qinyu was cheated at a young age. That shadow guard was nodding when he suddenly asked. Little junior sister. Qin Shao said lightly, teacher's daughter. This subordinate understands. That shadow guard was shocked. He didn't expect that the imperial tutor's favor was so deep that he really addressed her as a disciple. Gu Xingyin didn't know that her whereabouts had been thoroughly investigated. By the time Qin Shao returned to the imperial palace, the things he wanted to know had already been inquired clearly. You're saying that the residence is the North Vanquishing Prince's manor, the place where the cousin who had an affair with the North Vanquishing Prince is settled? Qin Shao was furious when he heard this news. It turned out that after a round of persuasion, the North Vanquishing Prince's mansion made the decision to move to another place so that they could enjoy good food and drink. North Vanquishing Prince's mansion, very good. Then how did little junior sister know about that family? Seeing that little junior sister didn't look angry today, it didn't seem like she knew about this matter. It was just a coincidence that Miss Liang met Zhang Mingshu. The secret guard told her in detail about their encounter in the Western Mansion. If Gu Xingyin heard this, she would definitely be amazed by the ability of the shadow guards. Not even the slightest detail was missed. In other words, junior sister didn't even know who Zhang Mingshu was. She thought she had made a new friend. Qin Shao inexplicably felt distressed for the girl who had deer-like eyes. Well, you can leave first. He waved the shadow guard away and stood alone, lost in thought. His heart was filled with anger towards Qin Yuanzheng. He was angry that he clearly had such a good fiancée, but he was still thinking about a woman who shamelessly seduced his cousin. Chapter 326. At the same time, Qin Shao's favorable impression of the North Vanquishing Prince's estate had also fallen to the lowest point. Gu Xingyin didn't know that she could actually receive such additional benefits when she went out once. Since the day she met Zhang Mingshu, Gu Xingyin slowly came into contact with Zhang Mingshu more and more. Zhang Mingshu also gradually began to talk about everything with her. Judging from elder sister Meng's age, the noble ladies in the capital should already be engaged at this age. I wonder if elder sister Meng is engaged? Zhang Mingshu asked. Gu Xingyin blushed and lowered her head without saying a word. Zhang Mingshu had an idea in her heart. She recalled that although she and her cousin were in love with each other, they couldn't be together forever. She faintly said, I wonder which family's young master is so blessed. Gu Xingyin still had a shy expression, I haven't met him yet, but his reputation is extremely good. Little did she know that her shy and expectant look had touched Zhang Mingshu's sore spot. She was afraid that she would never have the chance to become a bride in this lifetime. The Grand Tutor's estate was so sinister. If the young miss of the Liang estate was spoiled and unruly, how could she be allowed to marry into the family? Seeing her suddenly shedding tears, Gu Xingyin seemed to be extremely surprised and hurriedly asked what happened. Zhang Mingshu wiped her tears with a handkerchief and a sudden desire to pour out her heart surged in her heart. She slowly began to tell her story. The more Gu Xingyin listened, the more she couldn't help sneering in her heart. In Zhang Mingshu's narration, she and her cousin were in love with each other and should be a match made in heaven. However, her cousin's fiancé came out of nowhere and used her family's background to forcefully ask the emperor to grant the marriage. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, she had no choice but to leave her cousin and live in this place alone. If an unreasonable person heard this, they would definitely think that the couple in this story was affectionate and helpless, and that the fiancé was naturally the vicious and unlikable villain. Gu Xingyin sneered, not to mention that the Liang estate originally didn't have the intention to marry into the North Vanquishing Prince's estate. That imperial edict was also personally requested by the old princess consort of the North Vanquishing Prince's estate. How could the Liang residents be considered as breaking up an affectionate couple? Moreover, if he had known that Qin Yuanzheng had such a childhood sweetheart, Grand Tutor Liang would not have been willing to betroth his daughter to such a family even if he had to defy the imperial edict. Truly, what a sharp tongue that could distort black and white. Seeing Zhang Mingshu looking at him pitifully, Gu Xingyin knew in his heart that she definitely wanted him to say something. It would be best if he could stand with her against a common enemy and denounce that vicious fiancé of his. She wouldn't let her have her way. Gu Xingyin looked worried as she looked at Zhang Mingshu with concern. What plans do you have for the future? Since your cousin's marriage was bestowed by the emperor, it is impossible for him to be divorced. A person like younger sister, of course, would not let herself be a lowly concubine. When she talked about being a concubine, Gu Xingyin's face didn't conceal her disdain. Zhang Mingshu was choked by her words. She never would have thought that Gu Xingyin would say this. A normal person's train of thought would be to pity her and then comfort her while angrily denounce her cousin's fiancé, right? Moreover, when Gu Xingyin said these words, no matter how thick Zhang Mingshu's skin was, she was too embarrassed to say that she was planning to become the lowly concubine that she was talking about. No, she couldn't even be considered a concubine. In any case, a concubine still had a status. Her current appearance could only be considered as a shameful outside wife. Chapter 327. For a moment, Zhang Mingshu felt so ashamed that she wanted to die. However, Gu Xingyin didn't let her go. She said with a tone of, "I think, sister, you'd better stay away from your cousin in the future. Otherwise, the most important thing for a girl is her reputation. You know, it's usually the girls who are hurt by this kind of thing. If your cousin is really good for you, he should be more conscious and not meet you again. He should choose a good marriage for you." How could Zhang Mingshu listen to such words? She forced a smile and said, "Sister Meng, I'm not feeling well. I can't entertain you today. Please forgive me." Without waiting for Gu Xingyin to say anything else, she asked her maidservant to see the guest out. Gu Xingyin left, but Zhang Mingshu's heart was pierced by a thorn. She used to live in a high pavilion built for her by Qin Yuanzheng and never had to face these things. In fact, she knew that if she wanted to be with her cousin, she could only be a humble concubine. But her cousin promised very well. Even if he married a wife, he would not touch her. His heart was with her, and he would not share it with others. My cousin loves me. Thinking so, she smiled sweetly. As for what Gu Xingyin said to her before, she didn't want to think about it at all. With her family background, even if Xinbei Wang Fei made the decision, what kind of good family could she marry? There was a cousin who loved her and an aunt who loved her. How could it not be better than marrying? If her thoughts were heard by those sharp-tongued old maids outside, they would probably curse her fiercely, "You're born to be a bitch. You don't want to be the legal wife of a decent family, but you want to be a concubine." On the other side, Qin Shao, who heard the report of his secret guard, couldn't help laughing. His little junior sister was really interesting. Qin Shao could almost imagine Zhang Mingshu's face turning blue when his little junior sister said those words. It was obviously a selfless statement, but every word poked at Zhang Mingshu's sore spot. However, if his little junior sister knew that the cousin mentioned by the woman in front of her was her fiancé, then. And the vicious fiancé she was talking about was her. She didn't know how sad she must be. Xian the emperor felt that he had really lost his head when he had decreed the marriage. And the residence of North vanquishing prince. Thinking of Zhang Mingshu's words, his eyes suddenly turned cold. What do you mean by breaking up an affectionate couple and oppressing them with your power? If it weren't for the old Princess Jinbei's old age, he wouldn't have agreed to the marriage with the Liang family. Could it be that her teacher's daughter was not good enough for a fallen prince? However, he regretted it now. He regretted that he didn't investigate and betrothed his junior sister to such a family. The more he knew about the North vanquishing prince's mansion, Qin Yuanzheng and Zhang Mingshu, the more disgusted he was with this family. What did he mean by, "I've given my heart to you"? Even if we get married, I won't touch her at all. Qin Yuanzheng was actually planning to make his little junior sister a widow. The emperor's eyes suddenly turned cold. He had to think carefully about the current situation of Lord Jinbei's residence. On the 15th day of the 8th lunar month, the Mid-Autumn Festival was held in the palace. As the daughter of the imperial preceptor, Gu Xingyin naturally followed her mother and grandmother into the palace. Of course, the womenfolk and the officials were received in different places. Because the emperor had not yet married, the affairs of the Hogam were still managed by the Empress Dowager. Gu Xingyin and the other womenfolk of the officials went to the peaceful life palace where the Empress Dowager was. Chapter 328. The Empress Dowager was not old. She seemed to be in her 40s. Of course, her real age was a little older than she looked. As an elder, Great Elder Princess Ronghua was naturally treated with courtesy and was arranged to sit in the seat closest to the main seat. According to the rules, the Meng family and others were supposed to sit according to their ranks. However, Gu Xingyin was held in the arms of Great Elder Princess Ronghua with a smile, so she had to sit in the most conspicuous seat with her grandmother. This made her receive a lot of stares, especially from some families who wanted to send their daughters to the palace. They all looked at Gu Xingyin with scrutinizing eyes. After recognizing her, these gazes became much friendlier. After all, those who could sit here were all well informed. They all knew that Grand Tutor Liang's legitimate daughter was engaged to the heir of Lord Jinbei. As members of the imperial family, Lord Jinbei and the old princess naturally sat in the front seats. At this moment, they were also looking at Gu Xingyin up and down. The old princess saw that she sat on one side with a perfect posture and appearance. Under the gaze of so many people, the old princess nodded in her heart. Lord Jinbei was not so happy. Zhang Mingshu was her niece. It was because of this future daughter-in-law that she was sent to the side yard. Thus, it was difficult for her to have a good impression of Gu Xingyin. Needless to say, Gu Xingyin was exquisite and gorgeous, which made her feel a sense of crisis in her heart. She was worried that her son would neglect Mingshu after they got married. She was afraid that her son would like the legal wife and neglect the concubine. It had to be said that Lord Jinbei's mind was really filled with something. Of course, Gu Xingyin received the stares of Lord Jinbei, but she was too blatant, which really disgusted her. Great Elder Princess Ronghua beside her gently patted her hand and looked straight at Lord Jinbei. Lord Jinbei suddenly met Great Elder Princess's stern eyes. In a panic, she lowered her eyes and did not dare to look at her. The old princess consort looked at her daughter-in-law in disappointment. She had been a princess consort for so many years, but she didn't have the bearing of a princess consort at all. The purpose of such a banquet was nothing more than to enjoy the performances of the actors in the palace. The madams who were familiar with each other greeted each other and the Empress Dowager rewarded them with some gifts. Gu Xingyin felt a little bored and found an excuse to sneak out. At this moment, the imperial garden was very quiet because all the officials and their families were at the front. The lights were very bright, and Gu Xingyin was led by the little chamberlain to slowly appreciate the beautiful scenery that had been forgotten by others. However, do you have anything to quench your thirst? Gu Xingyin asked. The young servant replied in a clear and crisp voice, "Yes, there is. However, it will take some time for this servant to get it. Miss, you may as well wait in the small pavilion in front." Seeing Gu Xingyin nod her head, the young eunuch repeatedly emphasized that she should not wander around, in case she got lost in the imperial garden and bumped into others. Then she left. After she left, Gu Xingyin breathed a sigh of relief. She found the small pavilion and sat down in a comfortable posture. She had to drink a cup of wine when the Empress Dowager gave her the wine. However, she couldn't drink a drop of wine, so she was drunk at this moment. She shook her head to sober herself up and looked up to see a tree of flowers reaching in through the eaves of the pavilion. She didn't know what kind of flower it was, but the large clusters of petals were blooming beautifully. She wanted to reach out her hand to reach it. Chapter 329. When Qin Shao came here, he saw a scene that made him unable to restrain a smile. A little drunk cat with hazy eyes was sitting comfortably on an armchair in the pavilion, trying to reach out her hand to reach a flower in front of her. The flower was neither too far nor too close. If she could straighten her body, she could pick it. However, she was unwilling to get up slightly. She just waved her hand in the air again and again in vain. Qin Shao had seen Gu Xingyin several times. Every time he saw her, she was dignified and polite, with a perfect appearance. When had he seen her like this? He found it interesting for a moment and didn't make a sound. He just stood there and watched her grab the flower again and again. Her silky clothes fell from her arms with her movements, revealing a small part of her white jade-like arm. Qin Shao looked and only felt that the flower was not even half as beautiful as her skin. Thinking of what he had just thought, Qin Shao's old face turned red. He spurned himself. Just now, he actually had such thoughts about a little girl who was nearly 10 years younger than him. He was about to leave when Gu Xingyin seemed to be annoyed. She propped herself up and plucked the flower as she wished. Gu Xingyin showed a satisfied smile and gently put the flower to her nose to sniff. However, in the eyes of the emperor, the flower was completely overshadowed by her satisfied smile. He didn't know why, but a thought popped up in his mind: if he could make her smile like this all the time, any man would be willing to give up everything, right? For a moment, he was actually a little jealous of Qin Yuanzheng. However, Gu Xingyin brought a big disaster upon herself. She was originally drunk and barely managed to stand up by leaning on the armchair. As soon as she got the flower, she forgot herself and turned around. Her left foot tripped her right foot and she stumbled and fell down. However, she didn't feel it at all and even had a smile on her face. Qin Shao hadn't thought about whether to pull her up yet, but his body had already reacted faster and hugged her in his arms. So small. This was Qin Shao's first feeling. The little girl in his arms was soft, petite, and fragrant. Once he hugged her, he didn't want to let go. When he looked again, he was so angry that he laughed. This heartless little girl was already holding the flower. God knows what sweet dreams she was having. "Your Majesty." The little attendant came over with the hangover soup and saw Qin Shao holding a girl in his arms. He was so scared that he hurriedly knelt down. The tenderness on Qin Shao's face disappeared, and he said coldly, "The young lady of the Grand Tutor's family is drunk. Go find 2 palace maids to take her to rest for a while, and also go cook some hangover soup. Go and inform Great Elder Princess." "Yes, Your Majesty." The chamberlain hurriedly left. As for what he shouldn't have seen, he didn't see anything. On this side, Gu Xingyin felt that she had fallen into a familiar embrace full of lotus fragrance. She subconsciously snuggled closer to Qin Shao's embrace, and even habitually raised her hands to wrap around his waist. She was completely unaware that her embrace was extremely stiff. Qin Shao was a little overwhelmed. Since he became an adult, no one had ever dared to hold him like this. But looking at the little girl's dependent and satisfied expression, he strangely felt a sweetness in his heart. Stop. She was someone else's fiancée. Qin Xiao tried hard to convince himself to ignore the faint reluctance in his heart. He put her down and leaned against the chair. Chapter 330. Gu Xingyin was gently woken up by a maid in the palace. After all, she was the daughter of an official. If it was said that she was drunk and stayed in the palace, it would damage her reputation. After drinking a bowl of hangover soup, Gu Xingyin finally sobered up. In a trance, she remembered a hug full of lotus fragrance. Was it Emperor Xiande who sent her back? She tentatively asked the maid beside her, "I am not good at drinking. I don't know which sister sent me here. I should thank her." The maid beside her smiled and bowed, "This is my responsibility." "Miss Liang, you are too polite." She saw that His Majesty treated Miss Liang carefully as if she was a treasure. Of course, he was very polite to Gu Xingyin. But His Majesty ordered that no one should say anything about what happened before, so she took the credit. Gu Xingyin felt a wave of disappointment in his heart, but he did not show it on his face. He thanked him and checked his clothes. After making sure that there was nothing wrong with them, he walked to the banquet area under the guidance of the female official. The palace banquet was just about to end. When great elder Princess Ronghua saw her granddaughter, she couldn't help but blame, "Where did you go? If you didn't come back, I would have sent someone to find you." Gu Xingyin smiled and held her grandmother's hand. "Granddaughter drank too much and was a little drunk. So I stood in the wind for a while to sober myself up." Great elder princess knew that her granddaughter couldn't drink. Seeing that there was nothing wrong with her, she was relieved. After the palace banquet, Gu Xingyin went back to the Fu with the elders of the family. But Emperor Xiande was in a dilemma. When he was alone, the little girl's figure would finally appear in his mind. The way she looked at him with her round eyes, the way she sniffed the fresh flowers with a satisfied expression, and the way she nestled in his arms obediently. Qin Xiao closed his eyes hard and repeatedly told himself that she was not someone he could touch. At this time, Fu Shi, the chamberlain, came to report that Empress Dowager invited His Majesty to the Peaceful Life Palace. Qin Xiao pinched his eyebrows and had a headache. He didn't even need to think to know what his mother was thinking. It was nothing more than the problem of having no one in the imperial harem and the imperial family having no children. But the problem was that he really had no interest in those women. When he was 16 years old, the late emperor assigned him 2 palace maids to teach him about human affairs. In the end, he flew into a rare rage and directly threw them out of the carriage. He also said to the late emperor that he was wholeheartedly devoted to learning and did not like women. At that time, this matter had been delayed. After he ascended the throne and became the emperor, no one could control him anymore. The Empress Dowager had spent a great deal of effort on this matter. Every year, the Flower Appreciation Banquet and the Moon Appreciation Banquet would be held several times in the palace. The purpose was self-evident. However, every time, Qin Xiao's reply was only one, "Zhen doesn't like it." This time, he finally found someone he liked. Unfortunately, he had already pointed her out to someone else. The wife of an official should not be taken advantage of. Qin Yuanzheng. I'll give you another chance. If you don't know how to cherish it, then don't blame me for being impolite. Gu Xingyin didn't know that so much information had passed through her lover's mind during a simple palace banquet. She was very busy during this period of time. She was busy with her chance encounter with Qin Yuanzheng being Zhang Mingshu's caring older sister. It had to be said that Zhang Mingshu's eloquence was quite good. Even Gu Xingyin's personal maid Jian Jia, after seeing her courtyard several times, began to pity this Miss Zhang who was cruelly persecuted by her sweetheart's fiancé. Chapter 331. Miss, what a coincidence. Qin Yuanzheng looked at Gu Xingyin in surprise. Gu Xingyin also nodded at Qin Yuanjing in surprise. She said in her heart, "What a coincidence. I came because I knew you were here." Qin Yuanjing was really happy. He originally thought that in this world, other than his cousin, no other woman would be able to touch his heart. However, perhaps this woman whom he had never even met before was too outstanding, making it hard for him to forget her after only seeing her once. There had never been a woman who could talk so well with him. If Gu Xingyin knew what he was thinking, she would laugh, "I came because of your hobby. How can I not talk well with you?" Moreover, how many of the young ladies from the noble families in the capital would talk so much with a strange man? Even Gu Xingyin wore a veil when she met Qin Yuanjing. This time, Gu Xingyin was followed by two maids. Qin Yuanjing wanted to be close to Gu Xingyin, so he invited her to play a game. Jianjia and Jilan secretly pulled Gu Xingyin's sleeves, but they were stopped by Gu Xingyin's eyes. The folk customs of the kingdom of Qi had always been more open. It was not a shocking practice to play chess with others in the Go Club. Moreover, Gu Xingyin did not even reveal her identity. She even brought two maids with her. Seeing Gu Xingyin agree, Qin Yuanjing was very happy. They did not tell each other their names. Gu Xingyin deliberately did not say it, and Qin Yuanjing felt that it was rare to meet a confidant. It would be vulgar if he revealed his identity. So, the two strangers chatted happily. Gu Xingyin played white, and Qin Yuanjing played black. Both of them were not in the mood to play chess. Maybe it was because Gu Xingyin's quiet appearance made people want to talk, or maybe it was because the incense in the incense burner was too intoxicating. In short, Qin Yuanjing suddenly wanted to tell Gu Xingyin about the troubles in his heart. Gu Xingyin pointed at him at the right time. "I see that you seem to have something on your mind." Qin Yuanjing smiled bitterly. "There is a problem that has been bothering me for a long time, but I shouldn't tell you." Gu Xingyin said faintly, "You and I have only met by chance. If you think it's convenient, you can tell me. We might not have the chance to meet again next time." Qin Yuanjing's heart skipped a beat. That's right, it was already a rare fate for the two of them to meet. In such a big capital city, he might not have the chance to meet the woman in front of him again. Ignoring the reluctance in his heart, Qin Yuanjing spoke slowly. Gu Xingyin was surprised that Qin Yuanjing would tell others about her and her cousin. "So you're saying that young master is deeply in love with someone else, yet he has no choice but to marry an influential lady who is already engaged?" Gu Xingyin pointed out the crux of the matter. Qin Yuanjing nodded bitterly. Gu Xingyin thought more highly of this person because of his narration. In his narration, he did not belittle the Liang family and Liang Qinyu. This person was not a villain. However, he didn't seem to have any intention of changing the current situation. His entire person was very cowardly. "To be honest, young master, if this goes on, you won't be able to treat your wife well after marrying her. Your beloved can't even enter the family and can only be a lowly mistress. You're harming two people by doing this." Gu Xingyin mercilessly poked at his scar. Chapter 332. How could Qin Yuanjing not know this in his heart? In the end, it was just because of selfishness. He was reluctant to disobey the imperial edict. He was worried that the royal family would punish the northern palace, and he was worried that he would be on bad terms with the imperial tutor. Gu Xingyin looked at Qin Yuanjing, who was sitting there silently. She decided to add more information. "Young master, in your heart, is your virginity more important or your future more important?" She didn't give Qin Yuanjing any leeway to retreat and said in a serious tone, "If young master thinks that your future is important, then you should properly marry your fiancée and treat her well after marriage. You should completely cut off all ties with your beloved. If you think your virginity is important, then I don't need to say more. Do you have the heart to let your beloved woman be a concubine that everyone despises? Let me give you another piece of advice. Don't treat women as fools. If you really marry her and don't take it seriously, then do you think the pampered young lady who grew up is a pushover? Don't go for wool and come home shorn. Gu Xingyin suddenly threw away the chess piece in her hand and stood up. I thought I met someone who understands me. I didn't expect that you and I are not the same kind of people. Goodbye. She ignored Qin Yuanjing's urging and left with her servant without looking back. Young miss, what you said was great. Jian Jia followed behind and praised. Oh. Then tell me, what's good about it? Gu Xingyin asked deliberately. Jian Jia blushed, although I am not as well read as you, I can't say what's good about it. But I think what you said is reasonable. Gu Xingyin glanced at her, you only know how to say good things. Jilan was also very happy. Originally, I saw that young miss and that young master were talking happily. I was a little worried. She wanted to say something but stopped. Worried that I will be tempted? Gu Xingyin continued her words. Jilan's face turned red, young miss, please forgive me. Gu Xingyin's tone was cold, what kind of person do you think I am? I am a person who has an engagement. How can I be tempted easily? How was that different from those shameless people? What's more, that young master looks like a good man, but after talking with him today, I found out that he's a man without any sense of responsibility. How could such a person be worthy of my interest? When her words reached Qin Shao's ears, Qin Shao laughed, well said. How could a cowardly man like Qin Yuanjing be worthy of his little girl? When Qin Shao heard the shadow guard say that Gu Xingyin had gone to see Qin Yuanjing, his heart was extremely vexed. In the end, when he heard the following words, especially Gu Xingyin's sentence, you and I are not kindred spirits, he felt both physically and mentally comfortable. She was indeed worthy of being the Grand Tutor's wife. Her knowledge was different from others. Her way of thinking was simply the same as mine. At this time, Xian the Emperor's mood was very good. In his mind, there was no chance of the marriage between Zhenbei Wang Fu and Grand Tutor Liang Fu. He thought for a moment and came up with an idea. However, he was worried that the little girl would not be able to take it when she found out the truth. On this side, Gu Xingyin did not know that she had a godly assistant. She was waiting for Qin Yuanjing's choice. Of course, no matter what choice Qin Yuanjing made, she would make the two of them taste the bitter consequences. It had to be said that Qin Yuanjing's choice was to go to Zhang Mingshu. When Gu Xingyin saw Zhang Mingshu at first glance, she knew what Qin Yuanjing had chosen in the end. This was within her expectations. In front of her, Zhang Mingshu's eyes were red and swollen, her face pale, and there were faint dark circles under her eyes. She clearly looked like she had cried the entire night without sleeping. Chapter 333. Gu Xingyin was very surprised and asked her what was wrong. Zhang Mingshu had regarded Gu Xingyin as a close friend these days. Hearing her question, the tears that she had stopped with difficulty flowed out. Cousin came to me yesterday. Zhang Mingshu began to wipe her tears with a handkerchief when she mentioned this. Gu Xingyin did not speak, waiting for her to continue. He told me that he was going to get married in a year. He told me to forget about him and find a good family to marry. He also said that he would never come back again. Zhang Mingshu's entire body was covered in tears. Gu Xingyin looked at her coldly. He did not know how much of her tears were because of her love, and how much was because she was sad that the riches and honor in her hands had flown away. She did not know what would happen in the future. Gu Xingyin patted her back gently and said slowly, isn't this a good thing? Unless your cousin can marry you as his legal wife, otherwise, you can marry a good family and be a noble legal wife. How can it not be better than being a concubine? What do you know? Zhang Mingshu was emotional at this time. Her mind was full of the loss of wealth, and she spoke without thinking, my cousin doesn't want me. What's the use of marrying someone else? Can I have a higher status than my cousin's family? Can you let me live the life of a noble and respectable person? Rather than marrying a small family to be the legal wife, it's better to marry my cousin. As soon as she finished speaking, she seemed to release the depression that had been suppressed in her heart for a long time. Gu Xingyin was so angry that he was trembling all over. You, Zhang Mingshu, I never expected you to be such a greedy, self-deprecating woman. To think that I thought you were someone who understood me. I was really blind. She was so angry that she picked up the scissors on the table, twisted the handkerchief in her hand into several pieces, and threw them on the ground. I don't want to associate with people like you. Let's break up. Zhang Mingshu was also impulsive. Seeing that Gu Xingyin was so serious, she quickly said, I just said a few words out of anger. Sister Meng, why do you take it seriously? Gu Xingyin had already calmed down. She broke free from Zhang Mingshu's grip and gently brushed her sleeves as if there was something dirty on them. Her movements were smooth and unspeakably beautiful. She seemed to have changed into another person. She was no longer the real Miss Meng that Zhang Mingshu knew. Who's your sister? Miss Zhang, please be careful with your words. She glanced at Zhang Mingshu coldly and distantly and ordered the servant girl guarding outside to leave. Zhang Mingshu was angered by her previous action of disdain. She didn't urge her to stay. Instead, she sneered and said, I knew it. An official's daughter like you has never thought highly of me, right? How can people like you, who are born high and mighty, understand my feelings? Since you don't like me, I won't give up my face to beg you. Let's cut off all ties. Miss Meng, don't come again in the future. Gu Xingyin's footsteps paused. In the end, she straightened her back and walked out of the door without looking back. After getting on the carriage, Gu Xingyin leaned against the seat of the carriage tiredly. Miss, what Miss Zhang said was too much. Although Jianjia didn't know what the two of them said, she knew that there was something unpleasant between the two of them when she heard what Zhang Mingshu said at the end. In the future, don't mention her in front of me. I don't want to associate with people like her. Gu Xingyin said coldly. Chapter 334. Jianjia and Jilan rarely saw their miss so angry. They didn't know what that Zhang Mingshu had done. The two trembled in fear as they followed Gu Xingyin back to the Fu. Entering her room, Gu Xingyin ordered them not to tell her family what had happened today and sent them to guard outside the room. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief. Finally, she had gotten rid of these two people. Presumably, Zhang Mingshu's days would be very difficult, and Qin Yuanjing wouldn't be much better, right? Next, she just had to wait for an opportunity to dissolve her engagement with him. Gu Xingyin didn't think that this opportunity would come so quickly. The reason was Xian the Emperor, Qin Shao. Ever since Qin Shao understood his feelings for Tai Fu family's little shimmy, he arranged for a secret guard to be by her side, mainly to protect her safety. And Qin Yuanjing and Zhang Mingshu naturally had secret guards by their side. However, Qin Shao would not pay attention to any privacy when dealing with these two people. Even the number of times the two people woke up at night was investigated clearly by others. He also clearly knew the conversation between Gu Xingyin and Zhang Mingshu. That woman, she dares to be fierce to little Shimmy. Qin Shao was furious. In his heart, Gu Xingyin was a treasure at the tip of his heart. What was Zhang Mingshu? She dared to speak to her like that. Zhang Mingshu had become a dead object in Qin Shao's heart. Of course, with her, there was also her good Biaoge. The present Qin Shao impatiently wanted his little girl to see the true faces of these two people, to know that the fiancé she had been looking forward to was that kind of man. The emperor wanted to find an opportunity, the opportunity would naturally be sent to him. The autumn hunt. Qin Yuanzheng, who had always been mediocre and not favored by the emperor, was actually chosen by the emperor to be his personal attendant. The entire northern Zhenwang Fu was excited. It had to be known that in an occasion like the autumn hunt, those who could accompany the emperor were all extremely favored officials, or officials favored by the emperor. Could it be that the emperor wanted to put their northern Zhen Wang Fu in an important position again? The old princess consort specially called her grandson over. Yuanzheng, you must perform well this time and strive to leave a good impression in front of His Majesty. The prosperity of our North Jinbei mansion depends on you. Qin Yuanzheng was full of confidence. Grandmother, don't worry. I won't let you down. He wouldn't let His Majesty down either. He didn't say the last sentence, but the smug look on his face said it all. Gu Xingyin was also going to attend the autumn hunt. The kingdom of Qi was founded on martial prowess. Therefore, even if the noblewomen of the kingdom of Qi were not proficient in it, they still had to know some simple riding and archery. Gu Xingyin was wearing a fiery red riding outfit. The close-fitting design perfectly outlined her figure. Her long black hair was tied up high with a white jade buckle, revealing her delicate face. His gentle smile was incomparably dazzling. Gu Xingyin came with her second sister, Liang Jinyu. Because Liang Linyu was too young, this kind of occasion wasn't suitable for her. When they arrived at the hunting ground, except for Liang Jinyu and a few young ladies who had a good relationship with the Liang sisters, the rest of the people actually all stayed away from Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin glanced at them and was a little puzzled. Could it be that they looked like scourges? Liang Jinyu looked at her and knew that she didn't feel the lethality of her appearance. Who would be willing to stand with someone who could easily suppress them to the point that they lost their shine? Chapter 335. By this time, Gu Xingyin already knew that the northern Wang Shizi, Qin Yuanzheng, had been appointed as an attendant by His Majesty. Her mind spun and she thought of a wonderful idea. With so many people as witnesses to the autumn hunt, if she fainted from fright when she saw her fiancé, it would definitely attract the attention of countless people. At that time, she would spread all the rumors about Qin Yuanzheng and Zhang Mingshu. She would even hear that Qin Yuanzheng had personally said that he would only love Biao Mei. Even if Northern Wang Fu didn't want to cancel this marriage, they would have to cancel it. And even if the marriage was cancelled, the one who would lose face would be Northern Wang Fu. As to Gu Xingyin herself, at most, people would sigh and say that she was pitiful, and her marriage would be more difficult in the future. However, since Xian the Emperor was her lover, no matter how difficult his marriage would be, she could not marry anyone else. Gu Xingyin was very calm. But even though the autumn hunt did not pay attention to the boundaries between men and women, His Majesty was not someone that women like her could see whenever they wanted. Gu Xingyin was still letting her imagination run wild when a lady beside her called out to her. It turned out that the autumn hunt had begun. She hurriedly urged her horse to catch up. What Gu Xingyin did not know was that while she was worrying about how to get close to His Majesty, she had already attracted the gazes of countless people. Under the sunlight, the young girl dressed in fiery red riding attire had a beautiful appearance, her black hair flying and her entire person seemed to glow. Many of the noble's sons looked with infatuation at her and secretly thought that the northern Wang Shizi was really lucky to be able to marry such an outstanding beauty. Gu Xingyin had the system and naturally knew where the emperor was. She thought for a while and couldn't find a reason, so she decided not to find one. The hunting grounds were so big, there was no rule that said who owned a piece of land. It was just a coincidence, couldn't it be? So Gu Xingyin walked as she looked and quickly neared the group the emperor was in. On this side, Qin Shao was chasing a goat on his horse. The goat had already been surrounded and could not retreat. Qin Yuanzheng wanted to show off in front of the emperor and did not hesitate to shoot an arrow. However, there was another arrow that was even faster than his, ruthlessly piercing into the goat's throat. Everyone turned to look at the owner of the arrow. The girl in red rode her horse over. Her entire being was as bright and beautiful as a cluster of burning flames. A smile unknowingly appeared on Qin Shao's face. Just as he was about to move forward, he thought of something and looked at Qin Yuanjing behind him. As expected, she saw a trace of amazement in his eyes. Humph! Xian the Emperor snorted coldly. In a moment, Zhen will let you experience what it means to go from heaven to hell. Gu Xingyin also saw the Emperor and his entourage. She knew Qin Shao, so it was naturally impossible for her to pretend that she didn't see him. She urged her horse forward and saluted, "This subject greets your majesty." Qin Shao smiled, "Shimmy need not be so courteous." Gu Xingyin glanced to his side. When she saw Qin Yuanjing, she exclaimed softly, "Eh?" Qin Shao asked calmly, "Does junior sister have any old acquaintances?" Gu Xingyin smiled and shook her head, "Other than his majesty, who else do I know?" From the moment that young female appeared, Qin Yuanjing felt several of his colleagues steal admiring glances at him. At first, he didn't understand, but when he heard the conversation between her and his majesty, he suddenly understood the identity of the person in front of him. There was only one person in the entire country of Qi that could call his majesty Shixiao. His fiancée, Grand Tutor Liang's only daughter, Liang Qinyu. Chapter 336. Qin Yuanjing was originally very resistant to this fiancée because he always felt that without her, there would be no obstruction between him and his cousin, and he would not have to choose between love and his future. Thinking of this, he inexplicably felt that the girl in front of him was somewhat familiar. But at this moment, the envious gazes from his colleagues made him feel proud, and his ill feelings towards Gu Xingyin also disappeared a lot. Qin Shao suddenly said, "Little junior sister, it's okay if you don't know the others here today, but there is one person who is hard to come by, you have to take a good look at him." As soon as he said this, everyone understood what he meant. Qin Yuanjing was inexplicably nervous. A man's dignity was at play, and in front of his fiancée, he still hoped that he could leave a good impression. Gu Xingyin, very good, worthy of being my lover, he is indeed a godly assistant. She had not thought of how to let others reveal Qin Yuanjing's identity, and he had already taken the lead. So she very cooperatively looked at Qin Shao with a puzzled gaze. Qin Shao was a little reluctant about what was going to happen, but he understood the principle of making a decision. He pointed at Qin Yuanjing, "This is the heir of North Xinbei Wang, Qin Yuanjing." He could not say the words "the person who is engaged to you," nor did he want to say it. Qin Yuanjing smiled, "I have heard a lot about you, Miss Liang." He waited for Gu Xingyin to return the greeting. However, Qin Yuanjing thought of many possibilities, but he did not expect Gu Xingyin to have such a reaction. She seemed to be frightened by Qin Shao's words. Hearing his name, Qin Yuanjing was stunned for a while, staring at Qin Yuanjing, "You are, the heir of North Xinbei Wang." Her face was a little pale, and there seemed to be a lot of strange things in her eyes. Qin Yuanjing secretly wondered if he knew this Miss Liang, but after thinking carefully for a long time, he shook his head. Impossible, with her appearance, if he had seen her, he would not forget. He nodded, "I am the heir of North Xinbei Wang, Qin Yuanjing." Then, she saw Gu Xingyin's face turn pale. She looked at her with hatred and disdain, as if she had seen something dirty. Then, the girl closed her eyes and collapsed. She was still on horseback. If she fell off, it would not be a small matter. Before the crowd could react, they saw a figure flash by and catch the unconscious Gu Xingyin. Who else could it be but Xian the Emperor? Qin Shao seemed to be somewhat flustered. He carried Gu Xingyin onto the horse and walked back, saying, "Summon the imperial physician to wait at Jin's resting place." This unforeseen event really left people scratching their heads. However, many people turned to look at Qin Yuanjing. The expression of the Liang clan's young miss earlier didn't seem like she was looking at her fiancé. It was simply as if she had seen something extremely hateful and disgusting. But judging from her previous behavior, it was clear that she didn't know the crown prince of North Vanquishing Prince. There were also a few people whose minds moved quickly. From the unusual reaction of the emperor, they caught a hint of something else. Qin Shao was slightly shocked and angry at this time. He hadn't thought that Gu Xingyin, who knew the truth, would have such a big reaction. If he had known, he closed his eyes. He was very clear about his personality. Even if he had known, he would have done the same. He could not bear to see his little girl think of another man as her future reliance. Thinking like this, his anger towards Qin Yuanjing became even stronger. Chapter 337. Only Qin Yuanjing was confused. He didn't know what he had done to cause Gu Xingyin to show such an expression as though she had suffered a great blow. Inside the emperor's tent, Xian the emperor had already put down Gu Xingyin and was standing guard at her side. The Tai hadn't come yet. He had already sent someone to inform the Grand Tutor Fu. This old official is the director of the Imperial Hospital, Yuan. The Tai that had hurried over was preparing to kneel when he was pulled up by the impatient emperor. "You are excused. Quick, see how is Liang Xiaojie." Qin Shao was very impatient at this time. The old Tai didn't dare to delay and hurriedly walked to Gu Xingyin's side. He said, "I have been impolite." Then he put his hand on Gu Xingyin's pulse. "How is it?" Qin Shao asked. Yuan Tai stood and said, "I see that this Xiaojie's face is pale and her heart rate is abnormal. She seems to have suffered a great shock." Qin Shao thought. Wasn't it a shock? He asked, "Is it serious?" Yuan Tai shook his head. "I think that Xiaojie pays attention to her health. This time, she fainted due to anger. When she wakes up, this old official will prescribe some medicine to calm the mind. She will be fine after taking a few doses." Qin Shao's heart finally relaxed. It was good that she was fine. If little Shimmy was left with an illness because of this, he would really regret it. In the meantime, Grand Tutor Liang and the people of the Liang Fu that were participating in the autumn hunt had rushed over and asked what had happened. Qin Shao knew everything, but he couldn't say, "I also don't know." Little Shimmy saw North vanquishing Wang Shixi and suddenly fainted with a pale face. Grand Tutor Liang's brow was deeply furrowed. His impression of North vanquishing Wang Fu became even worse. A short while later, Gu Xingyin woke up. Her face was still pale, but she wasn't willing to say anything. She only said that she wanted to go home. Qin Shao could only send someone to send her back to the Liang Fu. Grand Tutor Liang and the others naturally followed them back to the Fu with worry. Qin Shao especially wanted to go with them to the Liang Manor to take a look. However, with his identity here, every move of the monarch of a country was being watched. There was simply no way for him to leave. Gu Xingyin went back to the mansion in silence. Madame Meng, who had already received the news, greeted her at the gate in person. Her eyes turned red when she saw Gu Xingyin's appearance. "Mother, what's wrong with you, her?" She hugged her daughter. Gu Xingyin only said one sentence, "Mother, I want to go back to my room." Ask them to leave. This meant that he had something to say to her. When the two of them entered Gu Xingyin's courtyard, Madame Meng dismissed the servants. When she walked to her daughter's side, she saw her daughter's tears rolling down like beads. "Mother." Gu Xingyin seemed to have vented all the grievances she had suffered along the way. She hugged her mother and began to cry. Madame Meng was frightened. Her daughter had been pampered and raised since childhood. When had she ever suffered any grievances? Moreover, her Yu had always been an open-minded person. Madame Meng had never seen her daughter cry so sadly. Don't cry, mother's good Yu. She slowly patted the back of her daughter in her arms and softly comforted her. After an unknown amount of time, when her daughter's crying gradually stopped, Madame Meng knew that she had vented enough and began to ask what had happened. "I want to break off the engagement." The girl in her arms raised her head. There were still traces of tears on her face and her eyes were still red and swollen. However, the anger and disdain in her eyes were not hidden at all. Madame Meng never thought that her daughter's first words would be this. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.